share. Let's see. How do I do this?
You'd have to be logged into the Zoom to share, oh, which you are.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Aaron, you want to come over? You're good out there.
I can do it.
Probably I can fit over here, I guess.
Okay.
I was looking at it earlier. I read through it. Unless it's a different one from what's at the end.
Okay, there. Okay. We're first off, I'd give an overview of mean. And basically, mean provides the wholesale energy for county lines. And there's 68 utilities that are members of mean. And it's a not-for-profit created in 1981. And it's owned and governed by the members for the mean board, which will be either Aaron or myself will be on the mean board on Thursday. And generally I go if it's in person, because it takes a lot, 8-hour drive there or whatever. It's all day there and back, but they're making it virtual this week and it's on this Thursday. And they're having committee meetings tomorrow. Anyways, the mean has a active goal to reach carbon neutrality in 2050. There's talk about an interim goal in 35, but they haven't actually adopted anything at this point in time. And basically, as contracts expire, they're replacing at this point in time with green energy, solar, hydro, things along those lines. And I'll show you kind of the charts that follow. But here's a chart that shows you basically a list of all the locations and the mean numbers. And here's kind of looking at the annual cost, you can kind of see where Lions fits into that mix. We're probably in the median in there someplace.
Even low compared to.
But you can see how high some of the numbers are. But everyone has an equal, I think pretty much an equal voice on the board. And here's the power that's generally being generated right now. And as you can see, most of it's actually, I don't think hardly anything's in Colorado. We've got one hydro facility out there in Delta. Aspen has another hydro facility that they're looking to get some electric from here at, I'm not sure if we're going to cover it this meeting or not. I haven't looked on the agenda for that. You can see, there's all these coal plants up in Wyoming and in Nebraska and in Iowa. And here's kind of, you can see, I took this out of the resource plan, but you can see what their plans are. This red line here is what mean actually needs right now. And what's happening is going offline or you're not continuing the contracts for the nuclear energies in blue here, 23. So starting in, next year, there's a gap that they have to fill. And actually they've filled some of it already with the projects I'll be showing you, coming up, and that allows us to get the green energy. But you can see here a good portion of that. In the meantime, they're planning on running coal for the intermediate future. That'll be a big part. But some of this, the fact that you see some of these lines going down, like the wind energy's decreasing, doesn't mean they're going to stop having that much wind. It means that's how much they have under contract right now. And that's their obligations to use that energy at those purchase prices that are negotiated. And so what's happening is as these blanks develop, they'll put on additional contracts to fill that up to make sure that they have enough energy, for all the member communities to use.
Hey, Jim, what does WAPA stand for?
Western area.
Yeah, it's a Western Area Power Association. That's
Thank you.
I think hydroelectric.
That's the hydro.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's also the transmission, to get that hydro resources. So it's one of all public power and cooperative power is basically based off the WAPA transmission backbone.
Okay,
There
Thank
our
you.
cheapest source of power we purchase is through WAPA.
interesting. Okay,
And Brandon's right about that. We actually pay transmission in WAPA on our mean bill, but actually it's just a pass through,
Mhm.
that mean bills us for WAPA.
Okay,
And here's Colorado Association of Municipal Utilities, average utility bills. I put the residential, and you can see where Alliance sits on here. And so the three pillars here are muni. This is the municipal electric. That's us.
Mhm.
We fall in that category. Then you got the co-ops, Lake Poudre Valley, REA, and they're Spring Gulch. They supply Spring Gulch along with a whole bunch of other places. And then the green, think Excel Energy. So we're doing pretty good as far as Excel. We're not quite there yet on for average munis, but that averages in a lot of the other bigger municipals like Colorado Springs, Longmont, Fort Collins, that have economies of scale that gets their electric rates down a lot better. So let me transition into talking about the new green rate. In the past, we actually had, if you look back here, this wind energy here on here, we set aside, we actually purchased wind energy at one point in time, and we have a set aside that we pay a little extra for right now. And we had other utilities like Aspen, Glenwood Springs have already gone 100% renewable energy by purchasing all this wind energy from me. And up until that, they bought all those, that wind energy, so none of it was available for anyone else. Gunnison wanted to go through, and Gunnison bought a whole bunch of other wind energy up, and they're still trying to get to 100%. And as a result of what I showed you before of me purchasing more renewables now, that opens up the opportunity to get those types of energies. We could have purchased landfill gas. Let's see, I'm probably skipping around a lot here. Yeah, we could have had the opportunity to purchase landfill gas, but that would have been a lot more expensive than the wind rate. And so we weren't proposing that. But now that they've added in these hydroelectric projects, let's see. Yeah, I probably won't, not skip that. But essentially what they're doing is they're moving all this energy, the wind, the landfill gas, the hydro, solar, all into a new green pool and having a green rate. And they're setting it 5% above the base rate, the energy rate that we're paying right now for our non-wind energy. And that's actually the same amount that we're paying extra for our wind at this point in time. So what they're going to do is all this renewable energy, if you purchase it through, mean, it's all kind of tied to these other projects, and you get these renewable energy credits. So it's, each of these renewable energy credits are backed by renewable energy. And what they're doing is they're setting aside, they're only going to hand out 85% of those because they're going to hold back 15% because some years the wind doesn't blow all the time. Solar may be cloudy. And so they want to be able to claim that you have 100% renewable energy. And you don't actually go down in those low production years.
So renewable doesn't necessarily mean non-carbon. It just, because like landfill gas is still a carbon-based energy, right?
It's actually listed as the green energy.
Yeah.
Because what you got is landfills are a fact of life.
Yeah.
And if you don't burn that,
It still
electricity
goes
off
up.
of it,
Yeah.
it just goes in the atmosphere like methane.
Yeah.
And so in that respect,
It's still carbon neutral.
it's counted as green actually.
Okay, all right.
The
Okay.
carbon's already been
Yeah, so,
used.
yeah, okay.
But it doesn't get a REC. A REC is a term of art which implies solely renewable, non-carbon based solar or wind.
It's not renewable, I guess.
No, it does get a wreck, I'm pretty sure.
How is it renewable?
I don't, maybe there are different REC certifying agencies, but in every instance I've ever seen, only solar or wind would qualify for a REC.
Say, for instance, Aspen is claiming to be 100% green. And that about 1% of their energy is from landfill gas.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's because green and RECs are not the same thing necessarily. You can say we're 100% renewable, but as a term, legal term of art, a REC is distinct. And so it gets complicated, right? It's kind of like they're labels, right? And some of these labels are regulated, and anybody can say, you know, it's healthy food, but organic means something that's federally regulated. It's the same thing with energy, right? You know, you can say you're green energy, but to be backed up by a REC, which says you're, you know, 100% carbon free, is something entirely different.
But it's still good.
Well,
It's still in the category. Yeah.
we'll have to, you know, check on that, but it's my understanding that all the green energy is backed by RECs.
Could you go back to the energy mix slide for a second? So for hydro, does Mean talk about how the coming water crisis is going to affect hydro production?
Not at this time. I haven't heard that, but that is a concern.
I got an email from WAPA directly about that. I guess I thought you were on it. Let me find that for you. And so I guess WAPA was addressing it, maybe Mean has again.
It'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, I haven't been
Well, there's-
following that, you know, closely.
Can I ask a question while the pie chart is up?
Yeah.
So how do you anticipate this pie chart changing over the coming years? Like, for example, right now I see coal at 58%. So I guess the goal here is if we go
It'd be
green,
zero.
it'd be zero, right?
Yeah.
Like starting when?
Well, what happens is as soon as they have what they're, I'm jumping ahead here. But
Sorry, Jim.
with, you know, you sign up for the green rate and it becomes effective April of this year. Okay, and we have to decide what we want to do at that point in time, whether or not we want to move our wind over into that pool, or whether or not we want to do away with our wind, or whether or not we're going to go 100%. And once we do that, you know, this wind, this green, the coal, and the nuclear and the landfill gas, all this stuff's going to go over to just green. And then the only thing we'll have on here is, well, we'll have three things. We'll have the hydro,
Mm-hmm.
the wind, and the solar. The solar is our rooftop solar. in town. And right now it's at, well, this is 221, it's, you know, it's 4.5, it's up to about 5.3 at this point in time %. But that's essentially what the pie chart will look like if we go to 100%. And so here's the energy projects that are driving the new green rate and that are allowing to make it possible. You know, basically what's happening is they're getting the solar and hydro, and rather than creating separate pools for each one of those and trying to figure out how much they cost and everything, what they're going to do is do this green rate, and they've ended up just, I think, basically arbitrarily taking 5% and adding it on there and saying, well, you know, that should be sufficient. You know, a lot of Maine communities don't really care about RECs. You know, they want the cheapest energy possible, but there's others like Aspen, Glenwood Springs, you know, even Lyons has its share of wind power right now. And Gunnison wants to go 100%. And there's another community that wants to go 100%. And we've made known our desire for Lyons to increase its share.
So does that mean that, and you'll stop me if you're gonna get to this, but does that mean that electric prices will go up by 5% for ratepayers?
No.
Okay.
So let me, yeah, you know, so we mentioned, you know, Mayor Angelo sent a letter to me last March and said they want to go, or Lyons wants to go increase its share. I still haven't seen that letter, but I hear it, I'm told by Mean it's out there and it's next in line, it's the next in line after Gunnison. And,
Do you have that, Dolores? What's that? Letter Nick, or Mayor Angelo sent to me.
I haven't wanted to argue about it, but I put on our list because the board said previously they wanted it. So when we submitted what we wanted from me, I listed the last 2 years, 100%.
did you?
All I have for the board is the same
Also help.
thing
Okay,
well, that's-
Jim has.
I remember printing it in his signing.
I bet he has a copy somewhere. I'll ask him.
But they definitely, Means brought that up any number of times. They even told me they were gonna provide it at one point in time, but I never did get it.
I'll see if I have one in my hands. Maybe I scanned it to them or something.
Let
on
me
this.
So legendary.
I bet we scanned
There was
it.
even some discussion during the board meetings on whether or not, they should open it up, anyone, draw straws, but, they said, well, those people who signed up first or,
Mhm.
should go first in line, so forth. So that's where we stand right now.
Okay.
And so the kind of specifics, there's a termination, it starts out April 23. There's a termination option, 1.5 years. So if some, if each board doesn't want this, they can't, there is an out.
Mhm.
Mean can terminate in 30 days. That's their out, something destroys a wind farm or something like that. Natural disaster and they can't produce, then they can do that. But if it's a minor amount of additional RECs they need to purchase, they'll end up billing us a little bit, and there can be minor charges. So it could be more than the 5%. But it's been noted that it should be very minor. And again, the increase is subject to resource allocation. So just because we starts April 1st, doesn't mean we'll go 100% on April 1st. If there's resources available, then we'll go up. Say, for instance, they're opening it up that towns can do away with their wind energy. At this point in time, I don't think it was out. Once you're allocated, you said you want so much wind, you can get out, but this is an opportunity now that you can get away, and there's some talk, or maybe some communities might do away with their wind allocation, so that might open that up. So you may be able to start on April 1st, but some of these other projects don't start producing energy until within the next couple of years. But within the next couple of years, we should be able to be 100%.
Question? Can you explain to us what Rex is?
It's a renewable energy credit. And basically it certifies that the energy you're using comes from a green source. The way electric lines, think of, we have an electric line from WAPA, but there's all different kinds of power companies dropping energy into that. It can be hydro, it could be a coal plant up in Fort Collins. It could be a natural gas plant someplace else, and so just the fact that, we have these RECs doesn't necessarily mean our actual electrons will necessarily be totally green, say during the night or whatever like that. But the fact that we have these renewable energy credits, it does give us the bragging rights to say that they are renewable, that we are fully subscribed to renewable.
Is nuclear considered renewable?
No,
Really?
Where
So-
is the nuclear plant that's being,
It's in Iowa.
where's the one that we get our energy from, do you know?
what's that?
It's the Missouri River.
It's on the
nuclear
map.
plant?
It's on the map.
I think it's
It's in
Nebraska.
Is it?
It's right there. It's on the border of Nebraska.
Yeah, Nebraskan.
Yeah,
I think it's right here.
Hastings, Nebraska.
Interesting. So,
Or-
so I have
no,
a question
Brownfield,
about,
Nebraska.
another question about cost. Assuming that the cost goes up, let's just say 1.4%, 1.5%.
Well, here, let me get to here.
Okay.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about.
Okay, let's talk this.
Okay, so if you look at this is a rate analysis based on, 2021 rates. Here's the mean energy. So makes up 46% of what we're paying for mean. We got our wind allocation, roughly 2% of our cost. We got our WAPA, 2.5. Then we got other things, you know, our fixed cost recovery charge and our transmission cost. And so we got our total, and here's the 100% is what we're paying mean that year. Okay, so 5% additional for renewables is 5% of this top number there.
Mhm.
And so that gives us 21,662. And you can see our current premium we're paying for wind is $937 a year. So we'd be basically paying, you know, $22,000 a year, basically what we're talking about. Now, if you go down to our sales, here's our residential electric sales, 69%, non-residential, 21, non-taxable, 10%. You total all that, and it equals about 1.4% of our total sales.
So this seems like a great deal
Right.
to me personally. What are the chances that the green rate, that Mean is gonna raise the green rate at some point? Like, once we say we all agree to this, just what does the contract look like? Can they raise the rate 10% in 2025 because they want to?
It could, you know, but they get a lot of pushback. Remember, we sit on the board, we have a voice. You know, Aspen has a voice, Glenwood
Mhm.
Springs has a voice. You know, one of the reasons why Glenwood Springs signed up again was because, you know, they were able to get all that wind energy. You know, if suddenly they started reneging on this 5% figure,
Mhm.
it'd be a really big deal.
So does the UEB have any concerns or see any potential drawbacks or pitfalls to doing this?
No. You know, so basically, both UEB and SFC unanimously approved it, you know, and want to go 100%.
Okay.
And so, you know, here's the 4 options that I came up with. You know, one, go 100%. That's what I'm recommending, what UEB, SFC are recommending. It aligns with our comprehensive plan. And I think, you know, just to try to entertain going to a less percentage, you know, it's like, well, what percentage you to pick? You know, it's like, it's noise level. You
Yeah.
know, because think in terms of, you know, we haven't raised our rates in like 6 years now. And in the budget is doing really well. And then we pay off a bond this year that will give us another $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Extra. So just that bond going away more than pays for this. And means, I think overall, we're seeing rates raise about 1% this year. And a wholesale cost, you know, so the other wholesale costs aren't going that much. So if we add in 5%, you know, we're still below the inflation rate as far as that goes.
Well, this is super exciting, and thank you so much for all your work on this. We're gonna end the workshop so that we can take a break before the meeting.
Okay.
However, I hope you'll stick around.
And I'll be around and feel free to answer more questions.
Okay, or if you prefer, you know, go home and zoom in if you wanna avoid the weather,
I want to
but,
avoid the snow.
okay. Well, thank you so much, Jim. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Yay. Okay, let's take 5 and then we'll start the regular meeting. Welcome back.
Yeah.
They can't get the kids.
Hey, trustee Williams, if for some
Would like
reason I
presentation.
can't see your hand raised, feel free to just break in verbally so that
My email is there.
we know. Okay, right on time. Thank you, everybody. I'll call the January 17th Board of Trustees regular meeting to order. Can we have the roll call, please? Clerk Raskus.
Yes, Mayor Rogan,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Farrell,
Present.
Trustee Delman,
Present.
Trustee Dottie,
Present.
Trustee Edding,
Present.
Trustee Elson,
Present.
and Trustee Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. We must acknowledge with respect as non-native people that the land on which we stand, live, and learn is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any amendments?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to remove the executive session as it's been determined that we will be doing Administrator Simonson's evaluation at a later date.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? Okay, we'll vote on the amendment.
Oh.
And the motion passes. All in favor.
Any other amendments to the agenda? No? Okay, we'll vote on the agenda. Trustee Williams?
No questions.
We're voting on the agenda.
Oh, I thought I already,
That was the amendment, sorry. Okay, thank you. All right, let's take a reflective moment of silence, everybody. Thank you. So I am going to read a proclamation for Black History Month, I believe. Do we have Meredith Foley on the Zoom? No? Okay. Whereas the month of February has received national recognition as Black History Month, and whereas in 2017, the Boulder branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, was established in Boulder with the purpose of promoting civic engagement, eradicating racial prejudice, and eliminating racial discrimination in education, employment, housing, and civil rights. And whereas the Boulder County branch of the NAACP is celebrating its annual Freedom Fund, a longstanding tradition that brings together NAACP members and community supporters to raise funds to support the operations of our local branch. Whereas the Boulder County branch of the NAACP is dedicated to upholding the mission of equality and justice for all, as championed by the NAACP since its founding in 1909. And whereas educating and fostering a sense of community, inclusive and respectful of all, is needed to affect understanding and facilitate positive change. And whereas the arts have always been an important expression of Black culture shared and emulated worldwide. And whereas African American musicians are underrepresented in formal ensembles, despite a deep musical tradition, including aerophones, flutes, reeds, pipes, trumpets, and horns, rooted in the bounty of the African landscape. And whereas the Boulder County branch of the NAACP is honored to extend an invitation to all to attend a performance by the premier Nashville African American Wind Symphony, an ensemble comprised of 65 Black musicians, music educators, and professionals, on February 19th, 2023, during the annual Freedom Fund at Mackey Auditorium on the University of Colorado Boulder's campus. I think I might be missing a page here, sorry. Therefore, I, Holly Rogan, Mayor of Lyons, Colorado, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2023 as celebrating Black history, uplifting the community through the world of art. And this was to be presented to Meredith Foley from the NAACP, so I will circle back with Meredith when we can. Thank you. And then, and if Meredith joins and she would like to do a presentation, we'll fit that in. Because I think she was going to. Okay. I also have some appointments. It is my great pleasure to appoint Ashley Cawthorn to the Planning and Community Development Commission, Fred Annexstein to the Sustainable Futures Commission, and Mr. John King to the Alliance Arts and Humanities Commission. All right. So now's the time for audience business. I know we have and we have you on the agenda for later, so feel free to comment on that later, unless you have something different to discuss right now. You do?
Yes.
Okay, great. Name and address, please, and then you have 3 minutes.
Oh, this thing right here, this one with the like thing coming out of the guy's mouth. Okay.
There you go.
All right, here we go. Whoa, it's like robot. Okay. I am Ian Brighton, 322 Evans. Real briefly, I just wanted to say that I'm so thrilled that affordable housing is coming to our block. I can't wait. I'm very excited for that. The parking issues I feel are maybe a little overblown by some folks. I do think they're there, but I feel we shouldn't get in the way of yes, perfect shouldn't get in the way of the great, or whatever, however that phrase goes. But anyways, so that's where I feel about that. And I'm so thankful that we have that coming to our street, and that the developers is going to honor commitments that existing owners are living there, can continue living there, because they're a part of our community and we really care about them. So I also wanted to extend a heartfelt thanks to Sergeant Chris, who in my opinion is just lights out, one of the best policemen I've ever met. And I'm just so thankful we've had you as long as we have. I wish we could, you know, just forever, you'd just be here all the time, but things need to change. And also welcome Sergeant Sears, is that correct? Welcome him to our community. And yeah, just thank you so much for all your service. Yeah.
Thank you, Ian. All right. I don't see anybody else in the room here. Anybody online care to comment on audience business tonight? Okay, we'll close audience business and move on to our Boulder County Sheriff's Report. Sergeant Christ.
All right. So I have a few things tonight. I will be wrapping up my annual report, so you guys will be seeing that. I send that over by the end of the week, I hope, or at least the beginning of the next. So I've been in touch with former Division Chief Bill West, who heads up our historical committee. So I've been talking to him about some of the ideas again on the inside of the substation. So he is still working on just generating some stuff to put on display for the history of the town of Lyons, reference law enforcement in general, all the way back in the 1800s. So I'm anxious to see what they're going to say or bring to the table. We're going to help them with any kind of finances that they need. He said he didn't need too much, but they'll know a little bit more as the project continues on, and we'll see what he brings to the table. So I'm looking forward to that. I also want to just reiterate, our final staffing has been approved, and next week kind of starts our general shift change. The deputies and obviously myself. But for the consistency of the town, I'm happy to say that all the deputies that are here currently are going to be staying here currently. So Deputy Ryan, Deputy Kowitz at night, and Deputy Kugel and Garcia during the day. So, and then obviously Mitch is still going to be at school. He'll be in school until he doesn't want to be being in that court position. So we're really happy about that. So, okay, a week from today will be my last day here in Lyons, and me and Cody will be basically sharing that same shift. His shift will be Sunday through Wednesday. I will be Sunday through every other Wednesday. So next week, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, it'll be me and Cody running the streets and Lyons at the same time. So we're going to use that also as another opportunity just to do that transition, get him adjusted to things up here get him around town, show him some of the ins and outs, things like that. We've been shadowing each other a lot over the past couple of months, just getting him on board with a lot of stuff. And that's it for my report. So.
Any questions for Sergeant Christ?
Yeah, just a reminder of the open house again.
So on Monday, open house from 4 to 7 at the line substation. I know it's been blasted a couple times. I sent it out to my department a couple times, and I believe we got quite a few folks from the department that want to come up and see the sub. So it's going to be a drop in at your leisure, trying to hit the before dinner crowd and maybe after dinner crowd. And I mean, we'll stay open and as long as people want to come in and see the substation. So those are just the parameters, but we'll have some cake and cookies and whatnot. And not a whole lot to see, but it's really cool over there. We are very grateful to have that really now. It's been,
The correspondent be there too.
yes. Yep.
Great. Well, I'm sorry, I won't be there. I'll be on vacation. Hopefully, maybe Sergeant Sears will give me a tour. Okay, so Sergeant Christ, the board is so grateful for your service, and so got you a little something. No, we were both at Joe Pelly's retirement party.
Yes.
Joe talked about having 2 fingers of whiskey. Following Joe's footsteps there.
Awesome. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Thank you very much. Didn't have, but that's awesome. I appreciate
Brandon,
that.
it was less than $50.
I appreciate that. And thank you, Sergeant Chris, for your service. It has been a real pleasure working with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I have a lot of thanks to say. I mean, 6.5 years has gone by fast. I remember my first board meeting sitting here just in pure panic of just a new role. You guys, I mean, three boards I've been involved with. The town staff has just been phenomenal. Both Victoria and Dolores have been my right-hand people up here for sure. And then, Deb Anthony and a lot of people that have come and gone have really made this spot easy. I usually say things like, well, one of my favorite phrases is if you want to make yourself look good, surround yourself with good people. And there's a lot of good people up here, so it really made my job easier. So I just want to thank everybody from the staff here in Lyons, the boards, Dave, I mean, everybody has really made this easy. And all the people in Lyons, I couldn't think of a better place to, hone my skills as a police chief and go from there. So I don't say goodbye because it's not goodbye, and I will be around. You will still see me. I will still come up here and bug you guys. And
What can happen?
but no, and then obviously, out of all the sergeants that I think we have in our department right now, Cody is, like I said before, my top pick for this position. I think that he's going to blend in to this town very, very well, and he'll have a little bit of learning curve like I did and all my predecessors before me, but he'll adapt to it very easily. And you guys are in good hands with Sergeant Sears.
No, thank you. We know we're in good hands with you, Sergeant Sears. We do. Yeah. And you got some shoes to fill.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to working with you and Sergeant Chris. Glad that you're going to be around.
Yes, you will still see me at events, and I'll still be up here from time to time. I won't be just vaporizing out into space.
Yeah,
I'll be
don't
here.
be a stranger.
Yeah,
Okay.
lots to do and lots of things to just keep going. There's a few projects that I still have here in town that I'll still be, piloting that are ongoing that I'm still working on, and bringing Cody on board with those too, so that he's aware of what's going on and some of the behind the scenes things.
Yeah. And our new Sheriff Johnson, said that he'll be here during the open house as well, so that folks can meet him. If you
Absolutely,
haven't met
yeah.
him, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I hope we have Under Sheriff Terry Weinheimer. I hope will be here too. I'm not sure. I know what's on his agenda, but I know that Sheriff Johnson will be here, so that'll be great. We'll spruce it up the best we can. We don't have a lot of things hanging on the walls because we can't hang anything on the walls. But
Sorry.
yeah, so Phil did ask me about command strips. I said, yeah, you could do command strips. So, but Thank you all. Thank you all for 6.5 years of a really a big highlight of my 23 years so far as law enforcement, and been a great time.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you again so much.
Now go play some golf with Joe.
We're gonna play some golf and do some drinking, and Cody, Monday nights, every first and third Mondays are now yours. As much as I enjoy board meetings.
As do we all.
Yes.
How long have you been to see that?
I know.
Yeah, that sounded.
Thanks, everybody. Y'all drive safe tonight. You're just smelling pretty good.
Yeah.
I know you don't have a long way to drive, but tomorrow morning will be busy.
Yeah, you guys be safe.
Yeah.
Night, you guys.
Okay, so tonight we have 0 ordinances and public hearings. Yes, it can. It's great to have a break. It won't last long. So I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We need to read it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Clerk Vasquez.
Yes, item 1 is resolution 2023-04, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, designating the official public notice location and the official newspapers of general circulation for the town of Lyons, Colorado. Item 2 is resolution 2023-05, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving a 5th amendment to a contract with Consor, previously Murray Smith, for engineering services. Item 3 are the January accounts payable. Item 4 are the January 3rd, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting minutes. And item 5 are the January 9th, 2023 Board of Trustees special meeting minutes.
Thank you. Now, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Anything anyone would like to remove from consent tonight? No? Great. I will call for the vote on consent.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. And so tonight we have the Student Advisory Commission update. I see Maya Kaplan online. Thank you so much, Ms. Kaplan, for coming back. And again, apologies for having to delay this because of the earlier meeting. So excited to have you here and excited to hear what you're working on.
Oh yeah, of course, and no worries on the meeting stuff. I totally get it. So to start, I'll say our biggest topic that we've really been working on this year has been a lot towards mental health in the community. It was kind of like our first meeting. We sat down, we were like, okay, what do we all feel strongly about? What's something we all kind of want to work towards? And that was one really big common goal. And so the biggest way we've been doing that is we've met with LEAF because we know they're starting to put a lot of funds toward mental health, and they're working on that with the new depot. So kind of just meeting with them and telling them how they can get more like youth involvement in their programs they're looking to create. So that's kind of been our big first project that we're tackling. Another thing we've started doing this year is we've added back student representation on the sustainability committee. And so we have a rotating member who goes to that committee and then reports back with us. It was something they requested. They wanted more student input. And then also just sustainability was another topic brought up by a couple members that they felt strongly about. And they're like, yeah, we want to do something about this. So those have been the two big ones. We also worked on the gun ordinances that were passed earlier this year. We talked about those for a little while.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Kaplan? Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, Maya. Thank you for the update. Thank you for your service. I just wanted to let everybody know this is going to be part of my trustees report, but I'm going to share it with you now since you're here. So Leaf's mental health therapist, Sheree Moreau, is actually writing a job description as we speak for an LPCC, otherwise known as a licensed professional counselor candidate for somebody who can help with youth services. So we've heard the call, we've spoken about it several times as a trustee. This has been brought up in the Housing and Human Services Commission, of which Cherie is now a commissioner. And actually, she wants to put the word out. If anybody knows anybody locally who is an LPCC, Leaf will be hiring two.
Great.
One for the addiction services and one for youth services. So I just wanted to bring that up to you now, Maya, just to let you know that progress is happening and the job description is being written. And if you happen to know anybody who holds those qualifications, if anybody knows anybody with those qualifications, it'd be great to hire locally.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll make sure to bring that up at our next meeting. I appreciate the information. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one other thing is we are always open to more topics too. If there's anything you guys ever want, like I know that was the gun ordinances Greg brought to us as something you guys had, and we're always looking for more topics to tackle too. So we're very open to anything.
Great. Well, we've been working on affordable housing quite a lot, and that'll probably continue. And I think something that we're missing when we talk about affordable housing is the effect on youth, right? When we think about affordable housing, we think of generally about adults. And so I would say if the student advisory committee is interested in that topic, that would be an interesting one to explore and get your input on.
For sure. Yeah.
Anyone else? That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for everything that you do. We find it really valuable, and I know I speak for the whole board when I say we really want to know what the youth of this town are thinking and feeling and what you all want. So we really value and appreciate your input.
Yeah, of course. We all love doing it. So.
Oh, great. Well, and you've got a great liaison. I know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much, and stay warm.
Yeah, you guys too.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I know they're great. Okay, so we'll move on to general business at not even 7:30 in the evening. So I know. So the first item is discussion and direction to staff on Means Green Energy Program. And we had a workshop earlier with Mr. Kerr about this. So we have a staff report.
I could give an update. I was gonna add a few things if I can remember the few. Mr. Kerr, Chair Kerr mentioned the SFC and the UEB had both talked about that. And then at the last SFC meeting, we were both there discussing the recent contract that was talked about that the SFC brought forward. You might remember it was then back to the UEB. But one of the items on there was looking through the mean contract and being able to see what's really being done. One of the items that he could do then was looking into those recs and really having an understanding of some of the legitimacy of what's there, trying to make sure that this is not just greenwashing, that it is really being done, so we could all feel a little more confident and have that comfortableness or the ability to go out and say, yeah, we've had someone review this, and this actually is a worthwhile green program. If we found out there were some concerns, we could bring that back. And then that leads into the other item that one of the topics that was sort of desired was how could we as a town convince Mean to be moving quicker to be more green, not specifically on the UEB side, but I know that was out there. And so by us showing our commitment going to the green rate, that would show other Mean members there are people out there. Some of them in Nebraska do say that crazy Colorado and they do what they want to do, but we are still as a member promoting that. So it helps on that aspect also, something just to consider. Third item, I can't pull it back up. But otherwise you had the report, staff was comfortable with that, the idea of going forward with the percentage that was there. I do see Attorney Dittman has his hand up also.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Attorney Dittman?
Yeah, I wanted to clean up some of the back and forth we had concerning RECs earlier, and I just wanted to make it clear for the record about, is landfill gas a REC and so on and so forth. So there's really, and this is part of what I was trying to get at, and wasn't very eloquent in it. There's really two different things you have to consider with regards to a REC, whether it includes certain resources or not. One is the entity, which are private companies, which, mint, it's called minting the REC. And this gets to what Aaron's talking about, greenwashing. And that private company certifies whether a REC so qualifies or not as a REC, basically. And so that's kind of step one. And some of the minting agencies don't consider certain kinds of energy, including biomass and landfill gas to be a REC. They won't mint a REC that has those types of characteristics. The second layer of that is that once you get that REC, for an investor-owned utility or for a municipal utility that's large enough to have a compliance obligation under the Colorado Renewable Performance Standard, the RPS standard. Colorado has a second layer, which is we will only accept certain kinds of RECs for your compliance obligation. Lyons doesn't have that because we're not big enough to, fall under the RPS requirement. But for a place like Colorado Springs, certainly in Xcel Energy, what the state says qualifies as a REC also is important. And so what Colorado says currently, at least, you get a REC for and use it for compliance is geothermal energy, solar, thermoelectric, solar voltaics, all types of wind, biomass, hydroelectric, landfill gas, anaerobic digestion, fuel cells, and then coal mine methane if it's determined to be carbon neutral, and municipal solid waste if it's determined to be carbon neutral as well. So Colorado does have a fairly expansive list of what can be considered as a REC for compliance. But it's my understanding, this is part of the confusion, is that many states have narrowed down that list and don't allow things like biomass or landfill gas anymore, even if they may have at one point in time. And so it's perfectly fine for the RECs to be that MEAN is using to say it's 100% to include landfill gas, because currently one, the state allows for landfill gas RECs, but two, we really don't have a compliance obligation. So anything that that says it's a REC is perfectly fine for saying it's green, even though it may not be considered for compliance in some states to be considered 100% renewable. And so I just want to kind of clean that up, so it is confusing.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so I think what you're looking for from us tonight then is yes, no, do we want to move forward with this? And so my question is, what does moving forward look like? If we say, if the board tonight says, yes, please go ahead and pursue this, then what happens?
Right, I don't know, would we be committing? I don't know that it's fully detailed out. The next meeting tomorrow and Thursday. So they'll be talking more about probably getting into some of the specifics. Because we want to let them know that we want to do that. We want to go 100% if that's the decision, to at least get us on the list. But we could find out if that puts a commitment for timing, if they have an idea of when some of these projects will come on, what percentage, and try to find out a little bit more. Again, as Chairman Kerr mentioned, it will be April when that becomes official, so we will have some time.
And would this, Attorney Dittman, would this take a resolution of the board?
I think probably it will require an amendment of our wholesale power contract with me. I'm not sure. I think that's probably part of what Aaron needs to figure out is what exactly we need to do to officially memorialize this.
Okay. Any questions from the board for Aaron or Jim?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I would say that me will come forward and have, notify Lions and ask Lions what they want to do.
Mm,
We need to be prepared to state what we want to do at that point in time. We have to sign up by the end of March. That's the deadline they told us of right now. So I don't think we have to do anything. We don't have to amend the contract. I think Mean's going to be doing it all. Maybe there is some contract we'll have to sign. And, but, we'll have to have the authorization of the board to go forward with that. So
okay,
whether or not that requires a resolution or what, I don't know.
okay,
I'll leave it up to the legal counsel.
okay. Well, resolutions never hurt.
Yeah, Chairman Kerr, how does this change your thinking on the urgency of the solar farm? Because we're now going 100% renewable, is the solar farm still relevant, and why is it still relevant?
For my mind, I think it lessens my, feeling that we need to really push forward on the solar farm. The reason I would want to push forward potentially on the solar farm is I think it could reduce our costs. And that's why, we stopped moving forward on the previous solar farm because of various reasons. There was lots of risks. The cost ended up being a lot more than we thought. But I think coming down in the future, there's a strong likelihood that we'll be able to put a solar farm out there that'll be less than the mean green rate.
And could I add another item that was going to be discussed for the review of the electric, both on the SFC and UEV version? What are the options of just putting in battery and battery storage?
Mhm.
Because then if we have the green rate, if we still had storage, again, it would probably be a little bit much to have something that was meaningful, even to say run the wastewater treatment plant. But he was going to at least look into that, the company, to see what it might cost and what you would then get with the storage, because you could still be reducing the peak, the amount of money we spend because of what we pay at our peak period of use.
Other questions?
So I'm still unclear, I'm gonna ask as a resident. What does this mean to my electric bill on a monthly basis?
So 1.4%, again, and that would be, still have to come back for an ordinance to raise the electric rates. Otherwise, it would be coming out of the electric fund. But if we were to go with passing on that rate to the consumer, it would be 1.4%.
Okay, 1.4%. Right, I understand. Thank you.
But I don't see an increase, nor is it necessary to increase the rate. We're actually probably collecting more money than we need right now. We raised our rates a while back to handle getting new meters, smart meters. And we've already installed those, and that extra money is still being collected. I know rates have gone up somewhat and salaries have gone up. The decision on at least the UEV was not to present a decrease in rates, which we probably could have done, a year or two ago. But I wanted to make sure we had a nice, balance in the electric fund. So I think at this point in time, and given that our bond's being paid off in this year, that's an extra $100,000. If anything, I think we could reduce rates.
I think that'd be what you would want to review. You would get the presentation from the UEV. With the bond payoff, if that covers it, that's great. Otherwise, if you want to take it out of what we have put aside for capital improvements, or if we don't need to even do that, you would have all the various options there.
And there is, later on this year, I expect to come forward with county use rate structure that we're going to get the consultant to look at. And if they don't come up with something, we have a backup with me to go through that, because I think that's necessary to go forward, with the new electrification, electric cars, everyone plugging in. When they get home, it really throws havoc in our rate structure. And we need to move to a time of use rate, in my mind. And so I would rather be a little strong on the budget during that time period where we're changing over, rather than, less so.
Trustee Delman, did you have a question?
Yeah, I still don't quite understand how we will be sure that it all comes from renewables, because like right now, 58% of the energy that is produced is from coal. But we're still going to be getting the energy from the same source. Is that?
Well, say for instance, even if mean was 100% not coal, some of our electrons would still be coming from coal, from Excel, from Fort Towns, or so everything's being dumped down into this pipe, and we come out. So what we want is to have those credits that says, well, we're tied back to a specific renewable project, and that's what the renewable energy credit is, and that's what this gives us those bragging rights for.
Yeah, basically, we count up how much energy we use, and we have enough racks that say we have enough renewable credits up to that amount. So that everything we're pulling from the grid is covered in some project we basically invested in through a rack.
Other questions?
You can educate you further.
Yeah, I think the point is it's not physically possible to make sure the current coming in from your socket comes from the wind. Because it's a big pool that everything goes into.
Yeah.
So
The only way we'd be able to do that is if we were to isolate ourselves from the grid, and have a bunch of wind and a battery to keep it so it's firm. So it's not feasible really. So the way you do it is you invest in a project, you get a paper that says that, we are buying enough racks to cover our megawatts, base load. And then so long as those two meet up, that you have contributed enough that, the energy you're theoretically taking from the grid is all green.
So, I'm glad you said that, because that kind of solidifies a question I have, which is, say we build out the Eastern Corridor, and so there's more electric demand. Does mean ensure that we'll still get 100% renewable even if we expand?
First caveat is electric is not based on the annexation. Electric is based on electric jurisdiction.
Territory.
So Longmont still covers that, just like Longmont still covers Spirit Hounds, Eastern Corridor area. We have now, there's a slight difference between those that use Cooter Valley because it is a rural co-op. So I hope to be bringing up the option to get the properties in town that are part of the co-op. We would have to buy them out and see if we have enough money. It becomes feasible if it's a financially right thing to do, but we could then take those on and have them as customers. Taking over from Longmont becomes a different project that I haven't seen a specific way forward. It would be trying to negotiate something with them.
Mm-hmm.
But say in a situation like that arose, say we took over the high school or something like that, and it's substantially more. And at that point in time, all the green energy was spoken for. No, we would suddenly not be 100% at that point in time, unless they had additional energy that we could get. If there was additional we could get, then of course they'd migrate us over to that. But we don't know that until we get there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks for that explanation. I don't think I knew or remembered that Longmont supplied energy.
Well, you'll have to see what exactly mean does, like when the hotel comes on, it's gonna be under that same contract, and if it's 100%, then they're gonna put all of that, right? Unless we're saying we're gonna go up again, I think it's something for us to talk about.
Well, one of the things, as you saw on the chart, Lions is a small little sliver. So us talking about a hotel is a small little sliver. And probably easy for me to do. It's kind of noise level.
Yeah.
So I don't see any real problem with that. And as I showed that other chart, over time, as mean brings on more renewable energy, it's just going to open up over time renewable energy for lines to get, and we're kind of in that line to get probably keep that 100%.
Any other questions for Jim or Aaron? Looking at you, Paula. You, Trustee Williams? No?
No, I am 100% in favor of this. I mean, and if it moves them faster toward totally green, that's even better. But yeah, for us, I'm 100% in favor of this, even if we do have to raise those rates that 1.4%.
Thank you. Okay, so this doesn't require a formal vote. I guess we're just looking for nods. Is everybody in favor of moving forward? Yeah, so am I. This is super exciting. I know you've been working on it, and Aaron, you've been working on this for a long time, so it's exciting times, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right. All right, next item of general business is discussion direction on the Lions Creative District use of the visitor center. I see Crystal online and Jamie's online too. Do we have a staff report for this?
This is discussion direction, follow up from there.
Okay, so we had a workshop earlier for the general public, in case you didn't know. We had a workshop earlier about the progress that Lions Creative District has been making and what their plans are. So now's the time to discuss what we think about the direction that they're taking, whether we have any input for them, and then to also discuss the use of the visitor center and how we'd like that to look. So who would like to kick us off?
So no, I think it's a good idea. The only question I have is about expanding. So I don't know how, I mean, that'll be in the future anyway, with expanding the space of what the visitor center would that take over a chunk of the park, right?
I think that's TBD.
Yeah, right. That'd be my only concern. But I think it's still worth investigating.
I think, and Victoria, maybe you know the answer to this. Let's say that the Lions Creative District goes through the conditional use process and that gets approved. Who has the final say on what the building looks like? How
This
much
would
space it
be
takes?
similar to a lease that we entered into with the library and that you're considering with Leaf. So the town would retain ownership of the property and we would enter some form of a lease agreement on the project. If it goes through a minor development review or a major, it would depend on how much input the public has into it versus just the board and staff.
Okay.
So I think we looked at this previously, and Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we looked at the actual lot lines there. And you would have to go to the west and a little to the north, and there would be no issues with encroaching really on Sandstone Park per se. So we looked at it, preliminarily already, but of course, all that would come back to the board at probably a much later date when we, have more definite architectural designs that they're considering and they formed their 501.
Okay, but the board would have the kind of final
Absolutely.
say in what the design looks like.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I have a question regarding, well, I guess just the timing or the compatibility between the Highway 36 Broadway project that's about to start and this construction. Would they be overlapping? Would they be near each other? Would there be any issue with that?
There shouldn't be any constraints with Highway 36 project. All that will be happening will be on the north side of Sandstone Park. They will be, there'll be indentation into the current curb cut slightly. I don't even know if there's any.
Yeah,
But-
they'll be removing that curb and gutter,
But-
and the trail's gotta go in there, that's.
Oh yeah, so 10 feet of trail.
Mhm.
But other than that, there's not any impact on the visitor center as we know it now.
And do we have any idea of like the maximum amount of land that can be used for this building?
Again, if it's more than 2,000 square feet, it would have to go through a major development review. If it's a minor development review, then it would standard 2,000 square feet addition.
And I think the details about any possible expansion, I think, are kind of cart before the horse at this point, because I'm sure that, you creative district, you have a lot of steps to get through before we start
brainstorming about how cool it's gonna look.
Right. Yes, certainly we would be starting with the visioning phase, and thankfully we have an architect who's willing to work with us on that pro bono, which is the biggest hurdle in the process. So we have the certification, the C3, getting our staff on board, and starting to think about what this could look like. And I would envision that we'll probably have multiple scenarios and alternatives of varying sizes and design that we would bring to the table. But once we kind of start understanding what we're looking at, then we can also, as we talked with Victoria and Kim about when we initially walked the site, we also want to kind of start planning ahead for where there might be resources available for us to help apply for grants or funding to be able to take forward, whatever we're thinking about for the space, however big or small it is, and keep momentum so that we aren't waiting for years and years before this can actually be a reality.
I'm curious, a couple things. Number one, when sounds like you're going to submit your application, maybe it's around March timeframe, March, April. How long are you anticipating to be awarded? We're going to assume the best.
Yes, I like that. Tentatively, they have told us they will likely make decisions in June and do the actual official certification in July. So
Okay.
I haven't received the final calendar. As you all may know, CCI, who does the certification at the state, lost their longtime director in October, and they have yet to replace that. So I think they have a creative districts program director, and they're still planning to move ahead with it. But I think there's been a little bit of a we're still waiting for clarity on what all the exact timelines are. But that's what the last piece of information I got was by midsummer.
Okay. So we talked about in the workshop about the Arts and Humanities Commission going ahead and using the space as it is today. So I'm curious, do you all foresee any obstacles or something that we need to work through to help you facilitate that?
I don't personally, and whatever the logistics need to be, part of the purpose of presenting to you all tonight at this point in the process is that we have a solid draft plan of what we are, building out as our 5-year strategic plan and our plan that we need to submit to the state. But whatever those elements are that we need to get through the regulations and the rules and timelines, we'll just build that all into the plan. And certainly the LAHC and the Lions Creative District will always be partners, however that looks going forward. So I don't foresee any issue with that whatsoever.
So are you wanting access to the building? Does the Arts and Humanities Commission want to actually be in the building now?
Yes.
Got it. That's what I needed. Thank you.
That's clarifying.
Do you want to clarify if they want to also use it as a visitor?
That was my next question. Can I ask that question, please?
Please.
Okay, so as liaison to the Economic Vitality Commission, it is really important that we have a visitor center open next summer. It has been closed for the last 3 summers, I believe.
2 pandemic years.
2 pandemic
so it
years.
would be-
And then last summer, isn't it?
So it would be imperative for the visitor center to be open. Is that a possibility for you to open the visitor center as it doubles as an arts center in June? I mean, I don't know how that works with your certification.
For the certification, it's no issue. I think and I would say, is it possible? Absolutely. So I think it comes down to logistics and staffing of it to have it open. We, as I'm sure Crystal, and I apologize I couldn't be here earlier, but I'm sure Crystal and Grace did a phenomenal job of sort of sharing the overview of our plan. Currently, just based upon the funding we have, because we don't want to overextend ourselves on a commitment to staffing, we're looking at having a staff person for about 15 hours a week. That can shift. That's on average over the course of the year. So from a staffing perspective, we obviously are already thinking about, how our artist community and members and things like that could help support staffing in the space and activation of the space. So for me, the way I look at it is it's just a logistics thing, and making sure that we have the man or woman power, and the ability to have somebody there staffing it, and that we're realistic about expectations on those hours of operation. But there's absolutely no reason in my mind why it can't serve as both a creative space and a visitor center function at the same time.
So Victoria, can you remind me, do we have a visitor center staff budgeted for the summer?
We do.
Okay, so I see no reason why the creative district should pay essentially to be the visitor center town staff person.
Well, if they want to supplement it.
Yeah.
And do more of a focus on the arts community when they're there or something, they could do that. But ours is budgeted to be traditionally the weekends. And I believe, and I don't know if Kim's on that iPhone or not, but I believe it's Fridays through Mondays, Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Okay.
So we have the weekend covered from a visitor perspective, but if they want to have it open while they have their LAHC members there or whatever, we can train them on how to answer the visitors center questions and serve both purposes.
So it's more like, I think of it more as an office sharing situation.
Yeah.
A co-working, if you will.
But we would love to have it that if someone's sitting there and a visitor comes, that they can at least welcome them. And, if they're just looking for directions on how to get to Estes Park
Yeah.
or whatever, we can help them with that.
Yeah. Okay. So is there any feedback that's specific to the plan that we heard about in the workshop? No, I'm not saying any. I mean, so you guys are doing a phenomenal job, and it's really exciting to see the progress. So, and then do we want to talk to the LAHC and see about the LAHC using the visitor center space while Lions Creative District, I'm sorry, is completing the next steps in their evolution? Is everybody on board with that?
Yeah. So schedule them to come to the board meeting and have that discussion with you.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay. So does that, go ahead.
Do we need to have that as a board meeting initially? I mean, do you want to just work out the details and then present us a plan to expedite time? We can do that at the staff level with the LAHC, but then have them bring it to you as soon as possible. I like that better.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great. Okay. Okay, so so Crystal, Jamie, does that give you what you need?
I think so. That sounds fantastic. And then we'll just look forward to working out the details. And we'll also keep you apprised, obviously, as we wrap up our full plan. And once we know the firm application windows and everything, we'll let you know all those details.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks for all your hard work. Well done.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you.
All right. So next on the agenda is discussion direction on Martin parcel and fire mitigation plan.
And tonight we have Zach Burgess and Chief Zick are present. And in your packet, you had a memo from them regarding a recent walkthrough of that parcel and their recommendations for the board.
So Zach, Chief, is there anything you'd like to point out or?
Great, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Yes, hello, Mayor and board and Lion staff. Thanks for having us tonight. This memo that I'm assuming you all have in front of you is just an update on the Martin parcel. Following, I forget the exact date of the last board meeting that this was mentioned, but it was shortly after. Wanted to just sort of explain the memo and open the dialogue for questions and see what you think. So this memo basically describes a meeting that was held with myself, Chief Zick, representatives from the organizations on top of the memo from Watershed Center, Parks and Rec, St. Vrain, Water District, Left Hand Fire, and Colorado State Forest Service. So we had representatives from each of those agencies meet boots on the ground at the Martin parcel, and had a really great discussion as far as what the current status and risk of that area truly is, as well as ideas on how to move forward with addressing that specific area. So the goal of the meeting was basically discuss ways of reducing fire risk, also how to protect values at risk of the local homes and nearby communities, as well as other sidebars to the goal of developing fire breaks, working on other methods of mitigation, including prescribed burns and so forth, and while also talking about flood risks and ecological values and protecting water supplies. So it was a really productive meeting and experience. I think I'll ask Chief Zick here to go ahead and just kind of cover the current fire risk of that area, and then we can keep speaking about it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Good evening, Mayor Rogan and Board of Trustees. It's a pleasure for me to be here to talk about the Martin parcel. As you know, we've been talking about the Martin parcel for a little bit of time here, and I think when we finally got to the last meeting on, I think it was December 9th, is that correct, Zach? I think that's when we met there. We kind of got ideas from a lot of different agencies, like Zach mentioned, and one being from Left Hand Fire, who, in my opinion, is kind of the expert on mitigation and wildland and making properties more safe. So I brought Chief O'Brien out, and previously I had brought his captain out that handles all the mitigation work. And we walked through this parcel a couple of times. Honestly, the overall assessment of the Martin parcel was the Martin parcel really isn't much of a threat when it comes to wildfire. When you look at a couple of things that we would need to do as far as mitigation is getting rid of some of the intrusive trees that are growing in there right now, and then cleaning up a lot of the bigger debris on the ground. But which is very easily done by doing prescribed burns down there, and just letting fire do its natural thing, and not really doing anything to disturb the natural growth of everything. It would actually make it a lot more healthy if we did it that way. But obviously, one of the main things that I was concerned about is how do we protect the homes that are right adjacent to the Martin parcel, and honestly, the people that live in those homes, when we went there the first or second time, there were big piles of slash that the people had been mitigating around their homes, and they're really doing a really good job of keeping a good defensible space around their home. So that made me feel really good, because it's not like something that we need to address right away in case we get a wildfire that runs through there. I think they have a good defensible space, so we could actually save their homes back in there. So, but again, those are all the things that we talked about. Reduce the fuels, encouraging, supporting neighboring properties, and implement home ignition zones, and then defensible space, like I talked about, when those are pretty much already underway. And then the last thing, I think, as far as the fire department goes, is actually getting some fire on the ground in a controlled manner to clean up a lot of the grass that would be a very flashy fuel. The fire may move through there very quickly because of the grass on the ground, but there was a consensus of the group that we have a very little chance of it getting up into the crown of the trees and burning over the top and actually getting out of control, that we couldn't get in there to control.
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, so
Go ahead, Zach.
yeah, so like Chief said, it's about removing some of the ground fuels. One of the ways to do that is to do prescribed burns, which is a process to bring Couple, I don't know how many people, Chief would know better, but I don't know how many people would be necessary for a prescribed burn day. But that was just one of several steps that could be included in this overall project. There really are 3 or 4 steps that can occur over a long period of time. With that be one of the easier ones to complete, I would think. Is that right, Chief?
Yes.
Yeah. So beyond that, we talked about also removing some of the non-native trees, so the cracked willow in there is another issue in that parcel. It's not a massive issue. It's not overrun with cracked willow, but there are some there that could get removed that don't belong there. Beyond that, I wanted to mention that one of the really interesting things from the Watershed Center was this discussion of a larger project that addresses wildfire, but also talks about flood mitigation and sort of the ecological resilience of that area. So one of the things that came up quite a bit were beaver dam analogs, which I never heard of before, but I've learned a lot since then. And it's really quite fascinating to me. So the point of the BDAs, or beaver dam analogs, is basically to create some off-channel ponds that will also provide more moisture to the area, like thus increasing relative humidity. So as the relative humidity goes up and the moisture content of the surrounding area goes up, then that also protects against ignition or transfer of fire from nearby areas. So it's a really good thing to have. It's a really interesting way to address wildfire mitigation and potential issues. But the whole point is to basically increase the amount of moisture in the air, so it's harder to light that area. Since this meeting, I actually had a meeting with the Watershed Center last week, just because I actually kind of had to rush them a little bit to get my own eyes-on experience to understand what this looks like. I mean, it really was a fascinating conversation with them. I did forward, I believe they're going to be having another beaver dam analog talk / tour of one of their areas in the near future, and I'll make sure that we can get that messaged out to BOT. I think if it's possible, I don't know how the meeting proposals work with the process of setting up these kind of appointments, but if it's possible, I think it'd be a great thing for the BOT or the mayor to go see for themselves as far as what that area might look like. This was a meeting with 2 members of the Watershed Center off of Left Hand Canyon on an area that they had privately did a similar project, similar to what we're kind of talking about with the Martin parcel, as far as wildfire mitigation, ecological restoration, resilience. So I think there's a lot of crossover from what they've already done and accomplished to what could be possible with the Martin parcel. So I will be sure to relay that information in the meetings when they occur or when they're scheduled. So so I guess just to recap, we talked about kind of a 3 or 4 step process of potentially doing prescribed burns, doing some actual hand crew mitigation, and then also addressing some other additional work with beaver dam analogs or off-channel ponds, and obviously still examining sort of as time goes on here as what we're accomplishing. So I do think that this entire conversation is a good segue into more discussions about the annexation of the Martin parcel into town, because I believe that the scope of work here would definitely be I don't know if it's easier is the right word, but it would be a little more systematic of a process, I think, to accomplish some of these things as we examine, what our options are for addressing this parcel into something that's not just wildfire can't say wildfire proof because nothing's wildfire proof, but wildfire flood resistant, while also addressing some other potential benefits like the ecological resilience and some more things. There is a note there at the funding proposal. Of all the things that are discussed, I have the least knowledge about funding and how that works, but I know Director Kaplan is aware of this and can probably speak more to that, of how this all works together. But like I said originally, this is just a conversation starting point and just an update as to what Chief Sick and I have addressed so far. And we can also answer any questions that.
Thank you. It's, we've been waiting for this, I feel like for so long. So it's great to finally have it in hand and be able to read it. And hey, beavers and goats, why not? So anybody else on it? No, just you. Oh, gosh. So let's start off with questions and then we'll have a discussion. Are there any questions about the memo itself? Trustee Williams, please.
Yeah, is a BDA the same thing that's on South St. Vrain that was done after the flood? I think there are two of them there on South St. Vrain outside of town, old South St. Vrain on the road there.
I'm not sure if that's exactly the same. I believe there is a damming system. I think my impression of the BDAs now is that it's not, and perhaps Chief Sick might be able to explain it better than I can, but my understanding is the BDAs is about sort of using some of the other, it's not a cement installation. It's like a hand crew installation of logs that are creating ponds that flow, that I would say match more of the surrounding area. It's not
that's actually what's out there. That's
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like I said, I'm still learning a lot of these things myself. So it's hard for me to exactly visualize.
Yeah, it basically looks like a human attempted to do what a beaver does, but it actually looks pretty good.
Right, and it, like I said before, it increases the RH of that area, which is great for everything that's in that space.
Great, thanks. Trustee Edding.
Yeah, so when I read this, I kind of felt like I was hearing two things. The first thing is that the Martin parcel does not pose a significant fire risk. So, and I see you nodding. So if that's true, why is it, should we spend the $75,000 on this parcel if we don't think it's a big risk? Am I not hearing that correctly?
Well, I think, and thank you for the question. One of the things that was the big concern, and this is going back even when I first got to Lions, one of the biggest concerns was to try to protect all of the natural things that were in there from a wildfire. And everyone viewed the Martin parcel as, I guess, a very high risk to, number one, the homes, and then what happens after the Martin parcel if the fire gets out of the Martin parcel and gets away from us. But again, I think there is definitely the need to get in there and clean up a lot of the dead and down trees that are in there to make it a little bit more safe. Because like we said, as we go through this plan and we get into the BDAs and stuff like that, cleaning up that stuff on the ground gives us the opportunity to get in there with our trucks, with our manpower, and not be at risk to get hurt in that Martin parcel. So I don't know off the top of my head what that would cost, but I think if we use, number one, a mitigation crew to get in there and start cleaning that up, and then honestly using fire, which is a naturally occurring phenomenon, to do that, I don't think that you're going to be spending a whole $75,000 on this parcel, to be honest with you.
Okay, can I ask, when we allocated the $75,000 to the Martin parcel, did we make that decision in the larger context of all the other things we could be doing in Lions, or did we just target the Martin parcel because we just targeted the Martin parcel?
We targeted the Martin parcel because we didn't have the context yet.
We didn't have the context.
And I'm not sure that we have it now.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Um,
getting to.
So
And 75 wasn't earmarked for Martin. There
It was
was
fire
175 toward wildfire mitigation.
175?
175.
I believe that was the total.
Yeah.
If you remember.
I think it-
But the previous board saw the Martin parcel just from their impression that it was this high threat. And we had been asking for some form of an assessment to determine that.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I mean, we can all have an opinion of what's a fire
Sure.
threat, but an expert should be determining what's the
Yes.
fire threat.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make this point. I just got one other point on the BDAs on item 4. They sound great, but they also sound like a mosquito breeding ground.
Oh,
Um,
or bat feeding ground.
so I don't like mosquitoes, but no, I mean, they're natural, they're part of it, but I know other communities have reduced mosquito breeding grounds. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard of similar things, but I really just think that I need to learn more. So I think it comes down to more conversations with groups that have done this already, and then trying to understand the effects, pros and cons of what they've gone through. So yes, I did hear that, but I don't know to the extent or of what we might be looking at. I also don't know like the total amount of surface area that is capable in that area for a BDA or BDAs. So I think there's more conversations and research to be done to determine if that would be a larger issue than not.
Okay,
Like
thanks.
there's plenty of wood to
Mayor
build
Pro Tem.
I'm good.
from that side.
So I just want to give a little bit of history. So it was now a couple of years ago, there was a fire protection task force. And it was through that task force. And this was prior to Chief Zick being on board, really identified the Martin parcel. So I think that's where that's coming from. And they had kind of done a number of 8 different properties based on what they felt like were some of our biggest concerns. But now with Chief Zick here and Zach with you here, you're reevaluating, and now I feel like you're giving us really good new proper perspective for, a better way of saying it, I guess. So I really appreciate it. And so I think my segue is one, I think this is really comprehensive and I appreciate the ecology element to this for Martin, but it makes me wonder if we need to reconsider a little bit more on our priority before we can commit to what we want to do here. So my question in a sense is to go back, Chief Zick, is there something from a fire mitigation standpoint that is really ringing alarm bells for you? So that's one question. And then I want to take it back to the annexation.
Yeah.
But I don't want to forget, so I had to say it out loud.
Great
Okay.
question. Great question.
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for that. I think so. There was and this is with the previous board also. I think there was a big misconception after the Marshall Fire happened. Obviously, that everyone became really aware of wildfire, what happens when an event like that happens, and so we had a discussion about this when we were all out there, and you really can't put a Marshall Fire event to any specific mitigation project that we could do in the town at all. And I brought up the example of, if a Marshall Fire event day happens, we could have a structure fire that starts in a kitchen and get out of control, and we would have the same thing happen that happened in the Marshall Fire. Because when you have such extreme weather like that, it's not going to be a wildfire that does it. It could be really anything that could happen. So I think we have to put things in a perspective when we start comparing how do we mitigate anything in the town and prepare for a Marshall Fire event, because honestly we can't. So that being said, I think when you look at the Marshall I can't even say it right. The Martin parcel specifically. I think there's a lot of things in there that, like, there's a lot of people that go in there. There's children that play in there that build like little forts and stuff. So I think that was the big question is how do we preserve that? And then, but how do we also mitigate for fire protection? And honestly, the Martin parcel is actually, like I said, it's not that bad. It needs some cleaning up for sure. But as far as a real huge threat to the town or anything surrounding it, it's really not.
So then what's higher on the priority list than that?
Well, I think when you look at some of the meetings that we've had with the community and the people from Firewise that have come out, most of the mitigation that I'm really concerned about from the fire department side and the mitigation standpoint is all the property that surrounds a lot of our communities. So when we did our first one with the whole community group that was up there, a fire coming down from the west going to the east, and then getting into those neighborhoods, that's where I think honestly that we should focus our efforts in the town to not only protect like a Martin parcel kind of thing because of its nostalgic value. But I think when you look at mitigation work, we should really start working on what protects bigger communities and prevents wildfire from getting into those communities.
So how quickly can we do that?
Well, we've done, and Victoria, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've done 5 or 6 communities up until now.
He says community, he means neighborhoods.
Neighborhoods, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I haven't attended any of those, so I don't know.
So I can say I attended the Steamboat Valley one, and we all had our houses evaluated. It was really good, but there was a lot of expense to each of the homeowners to do stuff.
Sure.
And it's been a year, and my wife and I have spent a couple $100 and that's it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to get other people because it's all private property at this point.
I
right?
think you met with Stone Canyon,
Yeah.
Stone Canyon, Steamboat, Eagle Canyon.
I believe that was the 4th or 5th one that we did. Yeah.
So do we want to think about then if Chief Sec, if the highest priority is on private property, which is what I'm hearing, do we want to take some of the funding that we set aside for fire mitigation and create some sort of partial reimbursement program for people who
I think
mitigate their
that's what
homes?
Zach is gonna do for us, is he would like to add Zach, are you frozen by audio too or just video?
Oh, we lost him. I think Aaron has a comment though.
I mean, I was gonna say, we could be looking at what the town properties are, the larger outlots that we have.
We have.
The previous fire, I forget what Emily Gruber's title was with the fire department. But when she was out, there was the property that surrounds Long's Peak. There's a
They see that
huge property.
and the Stone Canyon.
That
If it comes down the middle of that outlot, that's another one, and then the
Probably
hill
where we
above
did the
Eagle.
goats. That's
Yeah.
why we put the goats there, because that was.
And
one
the
of
goats are coming
high
back,
listed
right?
ones. And we are looking into that. Yes, I think the plan would be to have them there. We'd have to get, again, where they would work. So that was a starting already of trying to work on areas that were documented. Out of what had been looked at, were documented as the highest priority. We haven't gotten a good full inventory. But we also are applying for a wildfire grant. Tracy has submitted to get a comprehensive wildfire
Oh, great.
strategy done.
And when do we hear about that?
It's gonna be a while, but it is a planning grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
through this-
So we can continue with the smaller ones that we know of and do what we can with, say, the goat, or putting something into the Martin parcel, if that's what you wanted for that mitigation.
Yeah, what I heard, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard is west to east is important because almost all wildfires start that direction. So to address those on our western edge that have fast spreading grass fires that would go to the building. So is my understanding. So
Yes.
I think there's a lot of work we can still do on public property. We don't have the mechanisms to necessarily do that. Like our mowers can't go over those rocky outlots and stuff. So
Right.
we're gonna need another strategy for that. What I wanted to say, and now Zach's not on here, is that Zach has put forward a proposal to Aaron and I to take on an additional role for hazard mitigation coordination and work with us on taking the lead on trying to prioritize some different hazard mitigation strategies, not just wildfire, but all hazards. But he has a strong interest in that and feels like he has the bandwidth with his code enforcement to do that. So we met at length today, and we're going to pursue some of that if we can work it out. But he's not there, no. So I do think, and I know it's really frustrating to the boards that are seated and to the public that we just can't go do stuff. And we can just go do stuff if we want to, but to me, it needs to be sustainable.
Yeah.
You can't just bring in goats once. We heard from Zach that goats have to do it like 3 to 4 years to make an impact on the actual growth patterns of that. Most of the land surrounding us that we're talking about isn't even ours.
Yeah.
And so then do we spend public funds to address county issues? Do we take public funds to address private issues? And so there's some big decisions there. But I think it obviously doesn't hurt if you want to expend some funds and clean up the Martin parcel a bit, because we've heard from some of our public, they want to keep it more wild than our groomed park areas. We could at least get that part done if you wanted to. I do think there's more work to do on the Beaver Dam analog as well. What we had done instead of that when we rebuilt the park was this overflow channel, and Dave's on here now and knows what that is. So that's a body of water that's next to the Hickenlooper Way lot that is an overflow channel for water to go into that does not stay stagnant.
Yeah.
That flows through and addresses both flood and fire. So and I don't know if Zach may not know that information yet. So I'm happy to go look at beaver dams as an option. It sounds like we have plenty of extra wood on this lot we might be able to use for it.
Yeah.
But I do think a beaver dam is going to take a floodplain permit and approvals that we haven't addressed yet.
Yeah. And so it sounds like the beaver dam thing, it just is going to take more research.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we're just hearing about it.
So, but you, Mayor Pro Tem, you wanted to ask about annexation of the Merton parcel?
So I was wondering the next question, and then you can pull it in, but my thought is to do this level of work, do we need to have that property annexed in order to do it?
And that's what was talking about the Beaver Dam. The discussion was both the the left-hand St. Vrain Conservancy District, when they were here speaking to you, they talked about potential grants to do both wildfire mitigation, but also being the stream base, they work on the flood. And so with them, the other district that was out there that Zach was mentioning, the St. Vrain Creek, no, it's not the Creek Coalition.
Watershed
District, right.
Watershed Center.
It's different. The Watershed Center has a lot of funding working on grants. So they had talked about looking at it as a larger hazard mitigation, ecological mitigation, as he mentioned, project. And so to do even the beaver dams or to do another channel, if you were to do that further west or to go onto the Martin parcel, would require floodplain work. And both St. Vrain and what was it? Both the districts have said yes, that if you want to do that, they would recommend getting a floodplain permit from the town of Lyons or from Administrator Simonson, who's our floodplain administrator, and from working through Boulder County for a floodplain permit, because any work on the land is going to require a floodplain permit. So the difference there is when it's Boulder County's property, we have to go through Boulder County for a floodplain permit. If it's annexed into town, we go through the town process for a floodplain permit. So that's where that idea came from.
So the short answer is we should probably annex.
Due to that.
And then Attorney Dittman, can you remind us please what the procedure would be for annexing the Martin parcel?
So it's involved for any time you do an annexation, it's involved process, but essentially it will require a PCDC recommendation for a trustees hearing with a very specific statutory hearing framework. I can't remember whether we've done analysis on, as I'm not super familiar with the property, whether it meets contiguity and all that stuff. But yeah, we will need to do annexation surveys. I mean, even for the smallest, tiniest annexations, in my experience, it's still a convoluted process. So
Okay, so it's not as simple as a resolution.
The neighbors all get input, they all have to be notified.
yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna take some time to put it lightly.
But in the
Maybe just for the
meantime,
permit.
in the meantime, it's possible to do the cleanup that we talked about and do a controlled burn on the Martin parcel without having to get a floodplain permit from Boulder County.
That would not require a flood, yeah, correct.
Okay,
Well, does it prescribe burn in the county? Is that more difficult
I
than in
don't-
town?
yeah, Chief Sika, what about the prescribed burn?
You know, as long as we let the county know, and obviously they're gonna put us on certain windows of time when we can do that. They're not gonna let us do it in the middle of the summer, obviously. There's definitely good times to do it, and as long as we get it on their radar and we get them to give us the go when weather conditions permit, then we can certainly move forward with that.
Okay, and is there a cost associated with that?
One of the things that we discussed is rather than charging the town to do this, I would personally prefer not to charge a monetary value other than if we've got like a burn boss or someone out there, but we're going to try to use this as a training opportunity because some of our people need that prescribed burn training to do that. So I think it would work very well from a cost perspective and a training perspective on both of our parts.
Okay,
Can you ask how much it would cost to hire this mitigation crew?
Yeah.
Approximately for 10 years.
yeah, so do we have a sense of how much it would cost to hire the mitigation crew?
Yeah, I will get that cost to you.
Okay. So if it is, okay. Are there any other questions about mitigation? No, I'm looking at, no questions. Okay, so I have a proposal. I propose that we move forward with the mitigation that's outlined on the Martin parcel here. Removing the non-native plants, getting the prescribed burn done, doing that. And then moving forward, working to do whatever else we can do.
You mean on other parcels?
Yeah.
Another process, yeah.
Yeah. And, perhaps this is something we talk about when we talk about the IGA with Boulder County. Is fire mitigation on Boulder County owned parcels adjacent to our town.
I would like to also propose that perhaps we have the ecology board look further into the beaver dam, what's presented here, but the other option that you were describing to us 2 or 3 minutes ago.
I think that's a great
And
idea.
give them this as a project for them to come back and give us some more information. And then perhaps, because I know David Batts on that board, and he's also on the Watershed Coalition. So he could probably help give us a really good full circle input. So if we could have that done as well. But I'm not ready to pull the trigger on beaver dams right now.
No, I don't think anybody is.
Okay,
No,
but we should get more information on it.
And then do we want to direct the PCD? Do we want to start the annexation process?
So, my question is it easier to get a floodplain permit from Boulder County or is it annex the property? I mean, because it's.
Well, in order to, no, it's easier to get a floodplain permit from the town of Lyons.
Right, I heard that, yeah,
And the only way to do that is to annex the property.
right,
So getting a So,
A floodplain permit in the county, I'm hearing, can take 9 to 12 months on the
Okay.
average.
Okay, so that would give
So
us time to annex the
We
property.
tried to turn them around.
So-
We try to prioritize it and get it in 2 weeks if possible.
That's
So
a good question.
it's a very
it's
different.
a really good.
Well, it's
We
just,
both have the
I'm hearing
same
about the
standards.
convoluted process. I'm like,
Well, no, we both have the same standards. It's just we prioritize them here and it's just less cumbersome.
There's less, I think, they're resource constrained like everybody. So Brandon, about how long would an annexation process take, do you think?
We're currently in the process of doing one in Empire right now, and it's a fairly small, what would be otherwise considered a straightforward annexation. And I would say it's about probably 4 or 5 months minimum, just to make sure you meet all the steps. And I mean, the nice part about this is it doesn't involve like private property owners. So there's not.
The town at one time, Brandon, this was before you, when we prioritized annexations and incentivized them, we had a 90-day process. So that's the ultimate fastest we could do it, especially because it would be our own land. But I would say realistically, yeah, I'd say 4
months. Yeah.
And because this is over 5 acres, does it have to go to a vote?
No, because it's town-owned land.
It's town-owned land. Okay,
That's an exception in that rule.
great.
But did we decide to hold off on annexing that property because of financial, like budgeting, time, resources of
It was to
allocation
get
of
us to the
staff?
comp plan.
Yep.
Was the main one.
Okay.
Because, there were competing priorities there and, staffing hours were only so many. So we had agreed to take it off of the radar till we got through the comp plan, and it seems like one other project we had. But I think that could come back up if the board wants to us put together a process and bring it back.
Could we also annex, we still need to at some point annex the land south of the dog park?
Lot F.
Lot F, could we annex this at the same time? 2 birds, 1 stone?
They're not contiguous.
They're not contiguous?
Yeah, 2 separate processes.
They have to be.
Could they be parallel processes?
Yeah,
Probably.
you can run them at the same time potentially, but they're 2
think you
separate
have-
processes.
I think you have a different interest in them, mostly being, I don't know that there's agreement on what Lot F would be zoned
Yeah.
as. And you're supposed to,
Yeah, they do it.
annexation is an opportune time to be able to annex and zone at the same time. And you don't have to, you have 90 days.
Yeah.
But I think the Martin parcel has a more obvious zone than Lot F.
I would agree, yeah.
Okay.
So that might just hold it up for you.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
it-
you're still gonna have to zone it within 90 days of annexation. So I think most people just avoid that problem altogether and do it all at once. So I said just kicking the can down the road even if you didn't.
So what's the thought of the board on beginning the annexation process for the Martin parcel?
I think as long as staff feels like they have the resources to handle the process.
And I wasn't planning on that type, but I can certainly talk with our planning staff and see if that is something they feel they could rise up.
Okay.
Priority.
Trustee Williams, what do you think? Thumbs up? Okay. Okay, well, I think let's get that process going and then maybe our kind floodplain administrator will help us get a permit for some beaver dams.
Yeah, I need to find out if they I'm assuming they create a rise in the river.
I imagine
And
they
if
would.
they do, then that's a whole nother engineering hydrology study. Permission by FEMA, that's much different than.
Can we just buy some beavers?
Transplant some beavers. Might work better. We'll have to see.
I'm pretty sure they're not too
Let
far
them
to
do it
relocate
naturally.
them.
Yeah.
Take down the trees and build it in.
Yeah, let the
In
beavers,
this place.
let the
In this-
beavers take the trees down.
Yeah.
Can we rent beavers?
Exactly. Can we rent beavers?
The way we rent goats?
I'll look into that, Mayor. I'll look into that, no problem.
Okay, so, do you feel like you all got the direction that you needed from the board? Is that clear?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so, and I'll advise Zach what he meant from.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can watch, Zach, we record these, so you can watch it and hear it yourself. I think it was, the meat of the conversation happened when you had to go. when you were kicked out.
I think by the time we have our next meeting, will that be enough time for you all to come up with a cost estimate for reducing the fuels on the site?
That's up to Chief Zick. He said he was gonna get us an estimate.
Okay, so our next meeting would be February 6th, I think it is. Because we have an extra week.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll look forward to that. Okay,
And I'll get some information on the annexation process and zoning and bring that back.
great. Thank you very much.
You know, as I said,
Great
we're
work.
working on this for Empire right now, so it's somewhat of an opportune time. So you get to benefit from all the lessons learned from doing this recently.
Okay. Great, love it. Plagiarize for consistency. Okay, so it's 8:30. I apologize. We're gonna take a 5-minute break because I fell walking my dogs and my back is killing me and I need to stand up. Yeah, okay, so 5 minutes if you don't mind. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Chief Sick. Nice work.
Oh, gosh, I just
Heard you drop the wallet. Okay, thanks for that break, guys, sorry. So next on the agenda was an agenda request by Arn Hayden, but I don't see Arn on the call or here.
He couldn't make
There
it,
is-
so we're
He
standing
couldn't
in.
make it after all that. Arn could not make it. Are you kidding me? Okay, I assume you have a statement from Arn?
The way, well, this is a shared neighborhood statement, yeah. A neighbor statement.
Okay,
Sure.
okay, so.
Okay.
So this is what we'll do. You guys make your statement, then I want to hear from Tracy, and then the board will have a discussion. Okay?
Okay.
Sound good?
Good evening, I'm Michael Grace, I live at 236 Evans Street. Thank you all for your time and your service. And you guys have a lot on your plate all the time. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us tonight. We would like the Board of Trustees to reconsider the design decision on the railroad section of the US 36 Broadway multimodal project. And this decision was made by the board last summer. I'm sure you remember. It was late at night. We feel that that decision was made without a few things involved in the process. One being there was no traffic study done on Railroad Avenue. So there's no knowledge of how many vehicles use that road historically in either eastbound or westbound direction. And there was no discussion on that decision about how the various design concepts would affect traffic in the neighborhood, specifically on Evans and Park Streets. Railroad has historically been a bypass road, and so the traffic that's on that road is traffic that's not going through residential areas. And the design that was chosen, which is the Wooner type design, is specifically intended to inhibit traffic through dense residential neighborhoods to make it safer for people on residential streets. We feel that this is sort of a misappropriation of that design concept because the effect is probably going to be the opposite and put more traffic on the residential streets. So as residents of Evans, during the Longmont water pump project, we noticed a substantial increase in traffic on Evans Street. So we're worried that this design, which has a lot of restriction, already we're losing one lane of traffic going eastbound, but substantial restriction of westbound traffic, we feel is going to continue to divert traffic onto residential streets. So that's the main concern from the traffic side of things. I'll let Ian discuss some other aspects.
Hi, everyone. Ian Brighton, 322 Evans. Thanks again for listening to us and hearing us out here. Just looking back at the design of concept 2, there's a two-way bicycle traffic with a one-way vehicular traffic. So you're essentially routing bicycle traffic into like almost a head-on situation with other cars. And that's just concerning for several reasons. First of all, we don't have any safety data for this type of design. We've asked for some, if this design exists somewhere else, how is it working? We can't seem to find those examples. There has been a fatality in this approximate area in our town in the past for drivers. So it's not like it's never, it's an unlikely event. We also think traffic is likely to increase on that one way over time as more people get to know it already. Michael has a security camera on the back of his property and has already done a traffic study, amazingly, in the last 3 days from that camera, which is, and showed he counted 204 westbound vehicles today on that street, and as well as 1 eastbound. So there's already considerable traffic even in these early days where it's just kind of relatively newly opened again and people are just kind of starting to get familiar with it. Other aspects to consider of why option 3, which again is the straightaway bike lane, multi-use bike lane pedestrian with a straightaway, or it's all curved the whole road, but then a adjacent lane for vehicles. Another reason to consider that is it also is consistent with the rest of the design all the way down to Black Bear Hole. So essentially, it's a shared multi-use path all the way from Black Bear and even beyond eventually up to Broadway. So people are just already used to sharing, having bikes and pads sharing, and then the vehicles separate. So you have that consistency going along that entire pathway, which also helps with safety. If you switch it up here on Railroad, you might have bicyclists and pedestrians in conflict on this narrower 6-foot lane. I also want to mention that in option 2, you have these kind of variations in the lane. Actually has a point where the vehicle will make a turn towards the pathway, which 200 times a day times 10 years, maybe somebody accidentally turns a little bit more and might veer towards that pathway. And so it just creates more safety hazards, which over time it can create the likelihood of something happening. I think it's important to think about liability if there was a head-on with a bicycle, a cyclist and a vehicle in that lane, just what that would mean for the town in terms of what would we change the design immediately? Would we shut down the road? Those kinds of things. So we do highly encourage the town to relook at that option. We have a solution, which I think, just talking to Tracy, it seems like we were thinking about a bid alternative, but it seems like we've missed the boat for that. The timing wise, that's not feasible. But you can still do, remind me, a change order at any process when you find additional information or you've reconsidered a design. And we feel like a change order for this specific piece, again, it's just one section and it's essentially paint and pylons we're talking about. This isn't major walls and reconstruction or engineering that we need. It's essentially just an adjustment to the design. I think that it'll improve the design. It'll make it safer for everyone. It'll keep traffic off of our residential street, and it'll keep Railroad more as it traditionally is, which is an access. It's really an access road for the highway when you think about its function. So.
Okay, so before we have Tracy respond, I want to say that Victoria and Tracy and I met with Ian, Michael, and Arn. Oh, you weren't there. I'm sorry. You weren't there. Just seems like you were encouraged. We were there. And we talked about this issue, and we talked about the types of changes that we might make after we have learnings from the complete construction. So we can do a traffic study once it's complete. We can change this or that, modify this or that without having to go back and do some redesign. So I just want the board to be aware that we have that conversation. And I'll let Tracy provide more context.
Can I ask one question though? Can you remind us which option we chose?
You guys chose option 2.
2. Okay, I just want to have it in front of me.
And option 3 is actually what the Evans neighborhood representative are proposing. So we did. Okay, so we did propose this as an option to the board, and the board didn't choose that option. But that was in there as an option to have a straight lane for the traffic and a straight lane for the pedestrians and the cyclists and golf carts together. So it was proposed. So I think we fairly tried to present to the board all options that we could think of. So Ian is correct that Uner is more for residential areas for neighborhoods. However, we were in a bind where we have to complete a multimodal connection for the scope of this project. That was what was asked of CDOT when we submitted an application to them. We said we needed more parking spaces and we wanted this multimodal connection. So if we don't complete the scope of work, then we could lose the funding because we're not meeting the intent of the funding. So this was, the engineers came up with this option, and it is a new concept in the United States. Not a lot of people, they're starting to more utilize it in neighborhoods. So it is new. It's used quite a bit in Europe, but not here. So that's why we went with this option, because it was an idea or a concept that we could try to use to meet the intent of the funding that we have, because we had conflicts and restrictions for putting in a sidewalk on the north side of the fire station. And that's what we presented to the board. We had grade changes, right-of-way issues, all expensive and time consuming. And then on the south side on Railroad, again, putting in a formal sidewalk, we're running into grade changes, and so retaining walls is quite costly. Also, it's a very narrow road, so you really couldn't have two-way traffic plus a pedestrian lane. We also felt like that this road is basically being utilized now as we're proposing, but we would be putting in some safety measures that aren't there now. I think the biggest difference is the one-way traffic versus having two-way traffic. But right now, I think, as you all know, I mean, we have cyclists and pedestrians and cars all driving up and down that road. Yeah, on that same road with no safety at all. So it may not be the, most ideal option, but it was something to at least meet the intent of what we needed for the funding that we had. And that's why I believe the board chose option 2 with the chicanes and the 5 miles per hour, because it would really slow vehicles down and keep them from, just keep that traffic in control. And there are studies about if you slow traffic, your, chances of being of a vehicle, pedestrian, bicycle interaction, it goes down significantly as speeds go down. So I also wanted to address the traffic study. Ian is correct, we did not do a traffic study. There had been a traffic study that was completed a couple of years ago. They did not do a study of Railroad, but they did do a study of Evans, Park Street, and Broadway, and that was passed along to the engineers to review. I think, I cannot recall for sure, we went to the board and asked if they wanted to do a traffic study, and I don't remember if it was this board or the prior. I would have to go and do some research, but the amount of traffic didn't seem significant enough to warrant a traffic study. But as Mayor Rogan mentioned, we did have a meeting with Michael and Arn, and we discussed moving forward with this design. And then 3 months later, so after it's implemented, people are using it, we agreed to propose to the board that we do a traffic study after the fact. And if there were significant impacts in traffic on Evans compared to the study we had before, then we would look at making changes to the design after, and that would be on the town's dime to make any changes. But again, it is mostly changing striping, and we have some, and we can put any sort of delineators we want in there between the pedestrian traffic and the vehicle traffic. It can be planters, we can do bendable delineators. There's a lot of options there. So that was what was discussed and agreed to when we left that meeting. So that might be an opportunity as well. But as Ian mentioned, we can go out to bid, award this, and decide to do a change order, and it has to go through CDOT review and approval while we're doing all the other work. But that's an option too. So I think that may address everything that the points that, yeah.
And I do believe that our second most popular option as a board for this situation was closing it to traffic entirely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna.
No, you may not. Go ahead.
Okay, what I'm getting lost here is, what are we really trying to achieve? Because it sounds like your number one concern, let me finish. It sounds like your number one concern is you feel most of the traffic is now going to go to Evans and not be on Railroad. But then you also said you were really worried about safety on railroad. I'm not sure we looked at it from a perspective of where we wanted the lion's share of the traffic to be, but closing it entirely, then we know it'll all be on Evans, right? Which is the opposite of what you guys want.
Yeah.
So I think we need to decide as a board, what are we really trying to achieve? Where's the lion's share of the traffic going to go?
Well, no, I think what we need to decide as a board is, do we want to revisit this topic?
Okay, yeah. In that, yeah, I agree with that
Yeah.
completely, yeah.
Can I make a statement?
Sure.
Okay, first of all, we accept that the railroad is going to be a one-way street, right? And I'm actually fine with whatever traffic consequences that means to have pedestrian access from Second Avenue to Third Avenue. That's been sorely missing in our town for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, the post office, the library, music in the park, ice cream store, you know, there's no way right now for people to get back and forth. And we are in favor of that. What I think the main concern here is that what's left, this westbound traffic on Evans. I did a ad hoc traffic study with a motion sensing camera for the last 3 days. And if you're curious,
You mean eastbound? Because westbound can take railroad.
westbound takes railroad, eastbound now, you know, any traffic on that was eastbound is now going, you know, down to Park Street, probably. If you're going to the neighborhoods on the other side of the river, you're going to leave the post office and go down to Park and cut over. You're not going to go out on the highway and then cut back in on Second. So that's probably where most of the eastbound traffic is going. But westbound traffic, it's Evans Street. That's the easiest. I mean, it's right there.
So I think we want to know, is it a significant increase from what it was a year ago, 2 years ago?
I can tell you that it was noticeably worse during the closure of railroad.
Okay,
and the construction.
so, and now it's open.
And now it's open and it's 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour. And I counted more than 200 vehicles on it
Is
today.
that good or is that bad?
That's a lot of cars. And when it becomes 5 miles an hour.
Is
That's what the study had, when they did the study in like 15, 16, like 219 cars on a Thursday, 300 cars on a Saturday on Evans Street. So it's about
Right.
the same.
So when it becomes 5 miles an hour and with chicanes, it's gonna be faster to go down Evans Street to Second than to go on Railroad, and people are going to avoid it.
So then,
And so that is gonna be a major deterrent for people
So-
using Railroad the way they're using it today.
can I say one thing?
Please.
In the sense that I think then you're conflicting with each other in a way because increasing speeds on railroad, even though it's straight, you're increasing speeds with pedestrians with no sidewalk and nothing to protect. I mean, you're gonna have minimal to protect them. So then so then do you slow down traffic to protect the pedestrians and push them onto Evans? So I think there's a conflict. You're increasing the risk of your pedestrians by increasing speeds.
Well, if you're
Right.
diverting cars to Evans, you're increasing the risk for pedestrians on Evans where there is no pedestrian path. There are no contiguous sidewalks. So already Evans is a little bit of a hazard. And
Okay,
so being able to have pedestrians on railroad
We need
with
to-
their own lane is
Yeah,
way
we need to
safer
let the
than
board
walking.
ask questions.
Okay, okay,
You gave your presentation.
thank you.
What other questions do we have?
So you mentioned option 3. Is that something that you're saying that you want?
Yes, I think that strikes the best balance. I think, you know, Arn has brought up this, I had this concern early on, but Arn has kind of resurrected it and brought it to the forefront again. And I think really the concern is both diverting traffic down Evans and the safety of pedestrians. So the safety of pedestrians issue, and that's really where I'm kind of leaning the most, is routing two-way bike traffic into one-way vehicle traffic. I think on that stretch is just really hazardous. It's really dangerous. And I think you're going to also see bicyclists just use the 6-foot wide lane anyways as a bike lane, meaning you're going to potentially have pedestrian bike conflicts happening there. So I think just as a functionality, and you know, I have a background in planning and transportation, landscape architecture. I think it's just it's a design that has a lot of problems. I think even with the chicanes, you're going to still see people, you know, just shooting through the chicanes, which are those kind of like comfort bumper about things. And you're gonna see speeds in excess of 5 miles an hour. You're gonna, you know, that's just, it'll happen.
So we made this, I'm sorry, we made this decision. And you, if I remember correctly, were in support of this decision.
Well, if you read my email, I'm very clear that I support option 3, and I feel like that was actually more of a consensus. It was everyone's kind of second favorite choice. You know, there was people who really felt like closing it down was important, and then people wanted to go the other ways. So, you know, I was very thankful that the board opted to not just do the full Moon Earth at that point, because that was the initial design, was a full 100% Moon Earth, and I was very worried that that was going to get built at the time. So I was happy with the 6-foot dedicated pedestrian. It wasn't my favorite at the time, but it was, you know, the compromise at the time. And I think, but I do think Arn's concerns that he brought up are valid, and it's an opportunity to revisit, especially, you know, given just what is likely to develop over there over time.
So I want to do a follow-up question, but you got to turn that off, or it's going to be for Tracy. So Tracy, curious then, if we are just, what would be your response to, we've gone down the road with option 2. At this point, is it possible to change it to option 3? Or is that when you're saying you would have to do a change order in the process? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it would be, for time's sake, it would be better to do a change order after we award this contract to the contractor than to change it now, because then I don't know how much review CDOT will want to do on this. I mean, partially they're saying this isn't in our right of way, it's not our road, so you guys can do what you want. But they did review it for ADA and compliance and stuff like that. So they may want to review it, and I don't know how long that could take, just because they have to get all their entities together and they're super busy with a lot of projects. So sometimes that can take time. So a change order might be a better way to go for the sake of getting this out to bid and awarded and getting going on this project, because we have other deadlines and constraints that we're trying to meet with this project. So it's an option.
That's my questions for now. I interrupted Mayor Pro Tem and I apologize. Other questions?
I have a question about option 3. So both schemas that we have in front of us, option 2 and option 3, both show a speed limit of 5 miles per hour. But the arrow is pointing towards the separated bike lane or the multi-use lane. So in option 3, what is the speed limit for the vehicles?
I don't know. That's a good question.
It says
I
5.
think it is 5 as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe that's what, I mean, if you guys want cars faster, we can make it 10 or 15, but why would we?
Well,
do
I
that?
think my main
I think
concern
the
actually,
messaging is we want cars to use this very
carefully, right. And I agree, we need to have a separated lane for pedestrians and other vehicles. My concern with the 5 miles per hour is I clocked my golf cart the other day and it goes 10 miles per hour.
They go 25.
Some go 25, but I think most of the standard Yamaha ones are about 10. So I guess I'm concerned, as much as I want to reduce the speeds for the safety, I'm concerned about how realistic it is for vehicles, including golf carts, to go 5 miles an hour.
And we've had this conversation
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
You know, and
This is really, the primary traffic was meant to be the pets and the
Right.
bikes and the golf carts.
Yeah.
It was to try to make it more of a local road. Was part of it as well. This is, like Tracy said, we only got this because of it's a multimodal grant. And how do we all share the road together? I agree with Trustee Eddie, and I'm kind of confused because first, the whole reason this came up from Art initially was so much traffic on Evans. And so now we take traffic off of Evans. And now we're going to complain about this, whatever the new issue is, going slow. And then having anything is better than what we had. We had two-way traffic on a very narrow road on a curve with peds and bicyclists and everybody together. Put in a protection lane for pets, make it ADA. I'm still just kind of confused. When I look at option 2, I don't see major this kind of chicane stuff. It's just a couple little pullovers if I'm on a golf cart or a bike and I want to get to the side.
And a pull off for fire trucks.
And a pull off for fire trucks. But I don't really see the big difference. Number 1, I do.
Yeah, so option 2 was, option 1 was the very first proposed layout. And there was complaints about too many curves and that it would deter people from going. So then they came up with this option 2 to kind of straighten out the curves a little bit and have a little more dedicated pedestrian traffic lane. And then option 3 was just to straighten the 2 lanes out.
And cars are going to go fast.
Yeah, and then you'd have the pedestrian would be shared with bicycles because it would be an 8 foot. And then the very last option was to close it.
Was it 8 or 12?
I think it was, I thought it's.
Not 16.
It's 8 foot, it's 8 foot here, because you gotta have at least a 12-foot travel lane for a vehicle. And the road is 20 feet wide.
So, yeah, I do hear the same thing you do, that it feels like in one example, we're using it as a good thing, and in another, it's a bad thing. And so is the end goal to get cars off of Evans and make it so this is a cut through off the highway? Or do we want to have this a local road that people respect is shared by everybody?
So I think the tension here is that you just mentioned that you're trying to change it to a local road, but it's always acted as an access road, right? As a collector street.
No, I don't agree with them.
Well, it's acted as people getting to and from post office or other parts of the town, right? And it will.
And this is not a debate. I think the board needs to be asking that questions.
Oh, I apologize. That was
Thank
in
you.
response to Victoria asking a question.
Thank you.
I think the
So
board's very accommodating. So the more we get back to the board asking questions, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we've relitigated this quite
is
a
the
lot,
third time.
quite a lot. And so are there any other questions for Tracy or any other comments that Tracy would like to make?
Well, if there aren't any other questions, I'm wondering if we should go back to what was proposed in the meeting because that was something we were going to bring back to the board and hadn't had an opportunity yet. But after the meeting that we had with the 3 Evans residents about moving forward with this design and then doing a traffic study afterwards and seeing if there's significant impacts to Evans, and then it would be at the town's cost to make some changes or adjustments. So that's an option to consider that we discussed in that meeting that we were going to bring back to the board anyway.
And some of those options could be enhanced safety, like adding bollards between the vehicle lane and the pedestrian and the multimodal use lane. So, so what would the board like to do?
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
I'd like to know how this will affect the rest of the project and the timing. So if you go ahead with bidding the contractor and you do the change order, does it have to go back for review or no?
Yes, CDOT reviews every change order that you have on the project.
And how long would that take, do you think?
It can take a couple weeks. I don't know. It just depends on how involved it is and how many areas have, they have different departments for each thing, for stormwater, for roads, for EDA. So it just depends on how many people need to review it. It just, I can't speak for the contractor. We don't have a schedule. More than likely this is going to be probably one of the last things that they address, but I don't know for sure. But it, that buys you a little bit of time.
And would it affect the beginning of that construction on Broadway? Okay.
I think that's what I'm.
Okay, so this would be the last phase.
I would think that's what the contractor would want to do. And yeah, they have other areas they could focus on.
So I feel like too, when we did approve this, didn't we say that we would reevaluate it later on in case it wasn't working? And we said we can make changes to it. Not after all the construction was done. Because we did, I feel like we did talk about this and we said if go in and make changes if we felt we needed to. So it wasn't something we said this was going to be it and we're going to pick this design and be done. We said we're going to see how it worked. And if changes were needed, we would make them. We would come back and revisit it. Not with the traffic study, but we did say we'd see what would happen. At least that's what I remember. So that was all.
May I ask Tracy a question?
Yes.
In option 3, Tracy, golf carts, which are they the multi-use lane? Or are they with the vehicle traffic? Because there's no comfort zone for them to pull over.
Yeah, I think they would still be with the vehicle traffic just because they technically.
So even in option 3, we have golf carts going 2 ways, but cars going 1 way.
Mhm.
So that's not good at all without comfort zones.
It's been very
I wasn't sure if
difficult.
they'd be there or they'd be with the multi-pet. Like on other situations.
I mean, it's been very difficult to come up with a compromise or a solution that's gonna fit for everything that we have here in town and meet that. And this was designed by a traffic engineer and this was reviewed by CDOT and they approved it. They had a couple comments on the ADA that we incorporated, but they didn't have any other major concerns. But I understand that they're probably not looking at traffic being pushed to neighborhoods and stuff like that, but they didn't have huge concerns with the design as it was.
Okay. Any other questions? Trustee Williams, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Initially, I would have been good with either option 2 or option 3. I continue to be that way.
So the question before the board is, do we want to revisit what we chose? Or do we want to keep what we chose and then make revisions if we see that it's not working?
I would say keep what we chose and make revisions if necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. You know, if it's the same speed limit, no matter what, I mean, everybody's going to be slowing down. I don't think having the straightaway or the curve is going to make much of a difference. I think we stick with what we have so we don't delay anything.
I agree. I think unfortunately we have to stick with what we have. I understand the concern about traffic going on to Evans. Nobody wants that. I fully understand that, but one of the pieces of advice I got when I got on this board, when I started all of this, is don't be a technical expert when you're not one. And the truth is, the CDOT has reviewed number 2. They said it was safe, and so that's fact for myself. So I think we have to stick with what we are, and we'll certainly revisit it if we have to.
Yeah, I feel the same.
And I would concur as well.
And, you know, as I said in our previous meeting, which Ian, you were not at, is one of the hard parts about being on this board is you're never going to make everybody happy. And I'm genuinely sorry that this decision right now is not making you happy. It's the decision that's been made.
Can I say one thing, or is that not okay?
When she said,
I don't want to.
When I'm done,
when the board's all done, then we talk.
we will revisit this. Like we agreed in the meeting with Arn, who quite honestly, I'm frustrated that he's not here. Not even on the Zoom after all of this. So I don't know, maybe he's watching on YouTube. So I am genuinely sorry that we couldn't make everybody happy with this decision. And we will absolutely revisit it to make it better if it needs to be made better. And now you can comment.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, first of all, I was thankful that the board did approve the 6 foot wide piece. So I am thankful for that. I think what made me frustrated tonight was hearing Michael and I's time, coming here as complaints. I don't feel like when we bring up concerns about public safety, that should be taken as a complaint
And I
from
said
us.
that, so.
And that's, I think, where I'm feeling a little bit hot-headed, but at the same time, it's not directed at you. It's just, we're trying to do the best for our community, and I'm trying to visualize my children using the space, and I'm generally concerned about an accident happening there. That's why I'm here. So,
Well,
it's not
thank
a
you.
complaint.
I appreciate your concern and your involvement in the community. You know that.
Absolutely.
And I agree with that too.
Yeah, and yeah, please remember, we all are residents here too and using this, and we're gonna be watching it. I mean, of course, we can't control every driver. But and I'm sorry, the minute I used that word, I knew that. And the only reason that came out is because we have had public input, you've had a meeting, you got a response, and continuing to push against something that the elected officials have decided. Staff doesn't necessarily always agree either, but we do what the elected officials have decided, and they did it with very open eyes and options, and I try to respect them.
All right, well, thank you. Be safe
Yeah.
getting home. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to trustee reports. Trustee Williams, you're in the hot seat.
Give me just a second here. Historic Preservation Committee, the 23 goals are to complete the operational design of a local historic designation program that will be recognized by the state level, making property owners eligible for a variety of benefits, including noteworthy tax credits for renovations on their historic property, though it does complicate their ownership of that property. Complete the operational design for review and approval of renovation projects on designated properties. To launch historic designation program for property owners to complete a local designation using a town-owned property as a pilot. To partner with other boards and commissions, local business owners, nonprofits to build a tourism event centered around a historic walking tour created by the HPC. To apply for, receive a non-matching CLG grant of up to $25,000 for a historical survey and establish a system to build out the town's cultural resources around its pre-settlement history, specifically learning more about the Ute, Arapaho, and Cheyenne tribes. HPC wants to be mindful of integrating the lenses of race, ethnicity, race, and gender in the study of the history of the town. Their next meeting will be tomorrow night.
Thank you. And I read the grant application over the weekend. It was great. I just want to shout out to Priscilla Cohan for, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Kim would have forwarded it to you. No, it looked great. So, that's an exciting.
Yeah, it does look great. It was, I mean, they're on fire. They're ready to go.
Yeah. So, and Victoria just reminded me, and this is true for all boards and commissions. And it's tough with the changeover and new people starting, but when a board or a commission wants to apply for a grant, it should come to the Board of Trustees first so that we can give it the thumbs up or no.
Well, and allocate if there's any matches. And
Yeah.
Staff commitment.
Yeah.
And I did inform them of that after that had been brought up at our last meeting.
Okay, great. All right. Okay. Any other questions from Trustee Williams? No? Thank you very much. Trustee Elson.
All right, the Eco Advisory Board is meeting tomorrow. They can discuss 317. Yes.
Yeah.
SFC met last week. Most of the meeting was just what Aaron brought up. It was about the the meeting study. Rick Barron was there. We discussed finding the topics for Lions Energy Consulting Study, which is supposed to be completed by end of March. What they said. They also have a question. So because of the duration of people that have been on the board, they're even with the new person that you just added tonight, they're gonna be down to 3 people. So they're curious if there's any leniency until they can find new members so they can continue going.
Yeah.
The code actually says you remain seated until another person.
Until your replacement's found. So they don't have a choice, but we should still work through it.
Yes, they agree. Okay,
great.
That is it.
Any questions for Trustee Elson? Mayor Pro Tem.
May I, just real quick? Is the ecology board on their agenda tomorrow? Do they have any interest and involvement or education regarding this avian flu?
Oh, great
Oh, that's a good
question. Yeah.
Or is that something they don't want to weigh in and just have staff following CDC? I just don't want to overlook them. That
Yeah.
came up very quickly,
Appreciate that.
and it's going to have a major impact on the ecology.
Yeah.
Animal kingdom, yeah.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, okay, so I have a few things. So. Mayor Rogan and I had a working lunch last week and we talked about reviewing the goals and our goals and priorities that we established last year. We made some super great accomplishments. I won't go into the whole list, but it is a good time now that the comp plan is done. We're at a new year. Perhaps we should consider readdressing our vision. So we're going to take that. We're going to work through it first with Victoria. And then I'm proposing that we do a half-day workshop in February. And it would be kind of similar to how we did the budget workshop. But we're going to be talking about all of our goals. And I already made my own list of things that are in top of my mind. And then the PCDC is actually, they're meeting to Monday next week, and they're going to be talking about what they are envisioning, the 23 goals that then will come back to us. And so that we can give feedback to them that yes, they're on the right track, or perhaps now we're adding annexation to it, etc. So I think that there are some things that we could tick off of our list, and that maybe then there was some stuff that we were like, no, what was that again? I don't remember. So I think it's a good time that we kind of reevaluate and make sure that we're on track for the rest of this year. We did a lot in 9 months last year. I think an incredible amount in 9 months last year. So if we can really stay focused, I think we can be incredibly productive this year. So my point though is ask your boards. And I think the ecology board gave us some feedback, so that should be resurrected, but maybe they could write up to give you what their thoughts are. And then we look at it compared to the priorities, the comp plan, and then go back and say yes or adjust based on what we've come up with. So that's coming. I was going to ask, would you please send out some possible dates in the latter part of February that we could perhaps all get together? So there's that. And again, just one last reminder on that all is to make sure that everybody's looking at it, how it mirrors the comprehensive plan that will be passed. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a comment, just a strong agreement on a half-day session on a Saturday or Sunday or whatever. So we are 1/3 through our term, right?
Mhm.
So it's probably a good time. We should probably do it again. But like, for example, I wanted to do a lot on the Eastern Corridor, but I'm kind of lost faith that that's going to happen during our term. It just goes so slow. So I would love to reevaluate it and say, okay, yeah, these things just aren't going to happen, but these other things can pick up the pace. So just strong agreement.
Yay.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing, and I actually appreciate you requesting a date for the latter half of February, because two of the commissions for which I'm liaison will be meeting until the 13th and 15th of February. So for me to get feedback from them, I have to, put it on the agenda, ask the question, get some responses, and then I can bring it
Great.
forward.
And one thing that might also help is you could email their chair to put out word that this is coming.
Yeah.
So that they can all be prepared at the meeting to talk about it.
And some of these chairs, one in particular is traveling right now, and he'll probably be back by the end of the month, but they're very, he's really good about following the comp plan.
Great.
So I feel like a lot of times, well, from what I've seen, their goals are really to meet our goals.
Right.
And so I think what's really important as part of my trustee report tonight is those spreadsheets that the EBC already put together. If we could have that ready, I'd like to get one ready for the Housing and Human Services Commission. I feel like every commission needs that spreadsheet that shows the Board of Trustee priorities against the comp plan priorities and also determine the near future goals. So Paul Dreyer did that for the EBC. And I'd really like to replicate that. I mean, I think we need to replicate that for every commission.
And maybe after we have our meeting.
Yeah.
So after we have our workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was planning on doing it before, like, because once we adopt the comp plan, I feel like that will be our metric.
We're not
moving
going
forward.
to adopt that. It'll be considered a February 6th, and then if you have a retreat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
And
So I don't need.
And we can't, yeah, and you know, we need to, so we'll have the comp plan and we'll
Yeah.
have our goals and we'll have to prioritize our goals because we can't do all of the goals in the comp plan at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
As much
Right.
as we want to.
Yeah. Well, what he was trying to determine was what was near term, basically and I think, and so basically he's already done the work for 2023 because he's already decided they've already decided what's near term. Right, which would be this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Any other comments, questions for Mayor Pro Tem? Great, thank you. Okay.
Been gone for 2 weeks, but you heard from Chairman Kaplan. Chairwoman Kaplan, sustainable, or no, the Student Advisory Committee. So I don't have any more. The green stuff on the UEB, of course, was a big item tonight. Aaron, is there anything else from the UEB?
No, that was the big talk before. We have a meeting, I think it's tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to check, maybe not. Oh, it was canceled because Jim was supposed to be in Nebraska.
Okay.
We do have we now have, I think, a full commission, which is nice.
Okay.
Sure, we have two new staff now. That would be it, if we have a full UEB.
All right, and then just one other comment going back to the planning in February. I think it was a meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago. It started really hitting me how much construction is going to be happening over the next couple of years. So when we started talking about the Broadway project, the hotel, the fact that we didn't want those to overlap, we've got half of Main Street to rebuild because of fire. We've got Summit still all being built. Talking about undergrounding electricity, we're going to be a construction zone for 2 years, effectively. I would love to see this kind of like in a timeline chart of when each of these might start and stop.
Right.
But are we preparing the town for, there's gonna be a lot of construction going on. It really hit me. It's like, wow, this is gonna be a big 2 years.
We have been letting the businesses along Broadway know already.
Yeah.
We get some, chicken and egg. We don't want to go out too early and say it's coming, and they're like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? They do also, Kim has been trying to put that out. We did talk and we're working on reorganizing the capital improvements part of the website. I don't know if you've looked at the website, the capital improvements really had a lot of flood recovery. We talked at one of our department head meetings about some of the things going on and move those down and let's show all the new projects coming along so that Summit has a more preeminent page. Broadway right there with it. If we start the lights project on Main Street also is a little bit smaller, but trying to get all those listed. And then some of the recently accomplished projects like the bridge to show those. So hopefully that'll help also.
And but we can do a timeline.
We did it during the flood. We had one with our best estimates. On this, because you had in 317 Evans.
That's right. Yeah.
So we certainly, there is couple different programs, but as you'll hear in my report, our new engineer and project manager started today. So he should have access to all sorts of tools and, things that engineers use that we're not used to. So hopefully he can come up with something to help display this too.
Do you guys, how many construction workers we're gonna have in town?
It's so good for the businesses. When we had flood recovery going full force, our businesses said they were full at lunch on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, which are usually their slow.
Yeah, it almost struck me as we should need some food trucks for all the construction workers while the hotel's being built. I don't know. It hit me.
Talk to Asa.
It hit me
Yeah.
that, oh wow, there's a lot happening. Okay.
There has been. Highway 7 and the bridge right here and the railroad project. It hasn't been as in your face, but
Yeah, these are, yeah, all at the same time.
And even just to back up Greg's comments and with the timeline too, maybe you can have like a map overlay of where the construction is gonna be.
Yeah.
Maybe not the timelines for it, at least people can see where it's coming from. the impacts.
Yeah, we have a neat tool that we used from Microsoft projects during those times that we can, with the new guy, maybe we can regenerate that and
Yeah,
you may have something.
there's probably, maybe there's a better tool now.
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. Great suggestion.
Mhm.
Trustee Dashi?
Yep, thank you. Well, and just to rebound, the EVC was requesting information regarding updates around the hotel construction and the Highway 36 Broadway improvement. So you can see that people are wanting to have information, right? So just from that commission, that was something that came back. So the EVC and the Housing and Human Services Commission both met on Monday, January 9th, when we had our special meeting. The EVC mostly focused on the Main Street fire, although the Colorado Tourism Office was also there to give us an update. I think one of their concerns around the Main Street fire was the perception or impact of the closed businesses with the fencing. So they're curious about how long will that fencing stay up? How will that be perceived, or how will that impact people coming through? Will it look like Main Street is closed, right? Because they see that as, half the block on the north side. So that was a concern. We discussed the needs assessment that Paul had put together that has been forwarded to the Chamber of Commerce so that they can share that with businesses who might be looking for grants or other. Let me see. LEAF has been helping meet individual needs. They've already handed out 25,000 of the 80,000 in fundraising. And I have removed myself from the working group, but Kim Mitchell will be the point person for the revolving loan fund. That's the only piece that the town really has a hand in. Otherwise, it's the chamber who supports businesses and LEAF who will support individual needs. I have a request that I forgot to bring up last time, and that was to ask whether the PCDC could work with the Lions Fire Protection District to offer remaining businesses in the historic part of downtown Lyons pro bono inspections. So I don't know if that's something that we can, I'm concerned. I'm just concerned about those businesses being so close together and not having a firewall like there was on the other side of Maine. Not that that really helped those 8 businesses that were all connected, but just making sure that everybody has had a recent inspection if they want it, and that they know that they are prepared in case of a fire.
I'm curious what role the PCDC would have in that.
It would just be the board authorizing if the town
Okay.
wants to do it. Pro bono.
My mistake.
Yep.
Maybe the PCDC has nothing to do with that.
And that would be a fire district question.
No,
right?
well, it would be handled like a new business inspection and we do them together. The fire marshal and the building inspector go together and
Okay.
invest and look at a building and give them ideas.
right, so it's been a year, maybe a year and a half when the town we did start. When there were other concerns about the businesses in general from a number of different perspectives, knowing what businesses are there, knowing if people are living upstairs, downstairs from the businesses, various aspects. So I put together with the building inspector, the building, utilities and fire, all go, any new business or a business that moves, anything that changes where they're at has to have a business license inspection in addition to just applying for their business license. Normally that's $100 fee and it's per business. So at that 402 Main Street, we were in there 3 or 4 times, all of us already looking at most of that building. It was really focused on individual businesses. But the first time we went down there, I had never been in the basement there all these years. I didn't know it existed. The fire department didn't know that it existed down there. So we've been doing more of that. We've looked at the businesses recently, right over at 427 or so Main Street, finding out that there's the stairs at the side that I know what, there you go up next to the lot, but the fire department wasn't aware of different ones. So there is that concern and that question, and that was the way to really get it started, is these businesses that come in and out, we would have this ability.
Let's put that as a future agenda item for the board to discuss
Mhm.
whether we want to be proactive about that.
Aaron said it would be about $100
That's
per
what we normally
business
charge.
is what it would be. So even if we had 10, we're talking $1,000. So
Mhm.
Okay.
if you want to say, yes, we would support that as a
Yeah.
pro bono, we could start putting together some program or something to bring
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, please do that.
And if
Mhm.
not, then, and I don't know if fire will be in on that, but that'll be up to them.
Well, that's how, let's put it on a future agenda.
Okay. And while we're on the fire, if I could update, I'll respond to your fence question.
Mhm.
So the fence that was installed, of course, was the restoration company and the fire department mandate. And it had to be over the sidewalk until a structural integrity of the building was determined, so that if the building collapsed, it didn't collapse outside the fence. So that investigation, they've completed it, but the report is not back. We have not gotten the okay or not, because I expressed my concern that we now have the public walking out on a public highway to get
Right.
around it, and that's not gonna work in the summer.
No,
So
and we have public art inside the fence.
the current owner, Renee and Paul, have agreed that as soon as it's possible to back up the fence, they will. But apparently, to do the actual demo and stuff, it will have to stay out there. So I think the story is, let's work with them to get this cleaned up ASAP before summer if possible. And then the fence could at least be put back over the summer. Otherwise, we are gonna need another alternative for walking people in the summer.
Yeah.
Are
Even if it means,
demo before?
yeah,
Cleanup is meaning demo?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole thing's gonna be demoed?
yes.
Yeah, it's a loss.
It's a total loss. Wow.
So, well, they're gonna try to maintain the historic part, I hope. There's two or three archways that are really cool, and they love history, so, it all depends on this report. But if worst case will be, we may have to use a parking stall to be the walkway. You kind of see that in Denver, sometimes the fence is out, so that the public can walk past that in the summer, because they just can't be in the lane of highway traffic.
No.
Do we have any idea how soon that demo could take place?
No,
No.
not yet. It all just takes insurance companies and adjusters and.
And you'll update us when
Of
you
course.
hear
Yeah.
anything.
And so the fencing pretty much has to step until
It
the
has
end
to
of
stay
demo.
there until they make a decision on what they're gonna do.
Okay. Okay.
It's unfortunate.
I know, I feel like I can't really give them an answer on that. I'll just be like, I wait for the report to come
Well, it
back
makes
and then maybe they'll
sense. It makes
demo and,
sense.
right, right,
It's gonna
right.
collapse,
but I've asked the
especially
question.
with the weight of snow and ice on the road.
Yeah,
They have to have room
I
for
know, like,
to
all
collapse.
the inches of snow and roof of that,
Sure.
knows what's gonna happen.
sure, sure. The other part of that meeting was really exciting. The Colorado Tourism Office was there to give an update, and I'm actually really anticipating this report that they have done after 6 months of assessment. They're going to be distributing this report. I think it's going to come to Kim Mitchell once it's been finalized. There was some talk about a Mustang stop in Lyons, and I'm not really sure what that is, but I feel like it's a bus on its way to Estes. And also about scheduling monthly arts events. So I think that goes well with the Lions Colorado Creative District. We also have 100 hours of consulting coming to us through that program, which will, be of support to Kim, I think. There was talk about establishing Lions as a Rocky Mountain National Park base camp and positioning Lions as a creative arts destination. So again, going with the creative district. There's one business owner who is a commissioner who is concerned that if this isn't a good year, 2023 isn't a good year, he might have to sell. So there's some good and some bad. So let's have a great year for businesses. I think we whatever we can do to get Main Street operational by summer, I think is a big priority. So we're not going to meet again until February 15th. For the Housing and Human Services Commission, we met on January 9th. They did elections, as did the EDC. We got to meet the new Boulder County Area Agency rep, Sarah Lloyd. That was really exciting. She exists. She's at the Walt Self Center on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She mostly works with people 60 and over. And it sounds like most of the services required are to do with home health care, and they need practitioners. So we need local practitioners. If anybody knows of a provider for home health care, please direct them her way. And like I said earlier, Cherie, who just joined the commission, she's writing up job descriptions for the 2 LPCCs that Leaf hopes to hire. One will be paid for with the opioid settlement dollars that will hopefully expand their addiction services, and the other one will hopefully focus on youth services.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions for Trustee Dottie?
Okay, so I'm going to wait on the spreadsheet
Yes,
until our retreat.
just chill.
Okay. Okay. Gonna wait.
There's the one you made for EDC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I love spreadsheets.
Well, it's just not getting done.
It's gonna get this. Trustee Delman.
So Parks and Rec, they canceled their January meeting. Will not be meeting until February, so nothing to report.
All righty. Okay. Any questions about Trustee Delman's nothing? I would like to commend, and I'll talk about this in a little bit though, Trustee Delman for being out in front of his house and on the bridge with a giant ice pick as he watched me slip and slide up the sidewalk. So thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I'm better at that than I am at this.
You're good at them. So let's see, so Saturday, I attended an all-day retreat at the Metro Mayor's Caucus in Arvada, which was great. Great to connect with all the mayors and talk about what our vision for 2023 is in terms of the legislature and how to function as a caucus. So that was interesting. LAHC met, had a great meeting. We had a large discussion about those, those giant wooden trolls like they have in Breckenridge, about what it might look like, what it might take to try to get one of them in Lyons and where it might go. So TBD, feel free to come to our meeting.
How much do those cost?
They're, it's very complex. There's no easy answer, and the artist is hard to book and requires, he requires a good bit of time and a place to stay and a stipend. And so LAHC is figuring all that out, but there was general consensus to move forward with an actual Lions troll.
Cool.
Yeah. And then I wanted to request an agenda item, and I apologize that I didn't think about this earlier today, but when we were talking about the agenda, but the Broncos sale money. I'd like the board to have a discussion about how we want to spend that. Which isn't a lot, but for us, it could be a substantial program for youth.
Is that something that we asked the advisory committee?
Yeah, I didn't mention it, but yeah,
Oh,
they're gonna look at that.
Okay, good.
PRC was gonna look at it, but I think they're having the county meeting this week.
I don't know when that got set up, but the county wants to know what our plans are.
We have some, we can just share some ideas
Yeah.
compared to theirs.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can get some more information out about do's and don'ts around the avian flu. Victoria and I talked about that earlier, because it's, for anybody listening, it's vital that you do not touch a dead bird and that you do not let your dogs or cats near dead birds at this point. So that's an ongoing situation that I know we're trying to get a handle on. And then when it comes to snow, and I know, Victoria, we're going to talk about this in your administrator report. So I believe that the code is that residents have to remove snow within 24 hours after it stops snowing.
And businesses.
So I think the town needs to be held to that same standard, particularly when it comes to crosswalks. And I know that, we hear that CDOT is responsible for the crosswalks on Main and Broadway and Third, and they're not doing it. So we need to prioritize that. I actually saw a woman trying to push a stroller in the middle of the highway because the crosswalk wasn't clear of snow. And that's really, really unacceptable to me. So, so we need to figure out how to get that done. And that's all I have. Did you have a question, Trustee?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment about the avian flu and the trail leading to the dog park from Bone Park. And because I just literally took my dogs there the other day and I guess I didn't realize how many geese hung out on those soccer fields over there. And I had no idea how much excrement was on that trail.
Pound per bird per day.
So I can't remember who said, somebody said something about washing your dog's paws when you get home, because I was really trying to avoid it, to be honest, with both dogs on a leash. And it's really hard to avoid, actually. I was just happy they didn't try and eat it. But honestly, I feel like there should be some kind of communication around that where if you are, because I feel like a lot of people take that trail to go to the dog park. And so if they are on that trail and they can't avoid their dog stepping in that excrement, then I think we should advise them to wash their paws when they get home or whatever needs to happen.
Well, staff is putting together do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
That will hopefully go out on all communication channels, including e-bath and blast, including posting on Facebook, including signs, prominent signs.
Yeah.
At the post office and in the park,
And a lot
prominent signs.
where we know they gather on public property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those soccer fields, just like, what do
Yeah.
you call them? Gander?
Gaggle.
Whole gaggle.
Usually about 130.
That sounds about right.
There were 23 this morning.
You counted?
I always do
23
whatever.
today says 23 pounds of excrement.
Oh, yeah.
But usually
I can
they put
believe it.
about 130.
My dogs love it.
There's
Love
been a
it
lot
too.
less lately.
Like trying to get to the dog park is like.
Yeah, today was.
a mind
Pick them up
trip.
on the way.
Yeah, your dogs are small. Pick them up, put them on the golf cart. Okay, that's, any other questions?
I have questions, but I'm gonna wait to your admin report.
Okay,
All right.
and Director Cosgrove is here specifically to address if you have issues with the snow response plan that was in your packet. And he and his staff are, well, right now anyway, taking the lead on the avian flu unless we assign Mr. Burgess the hazard mitigation. As
Okay.
this is kind of a natural hazard, none of us expected. So, are you ready for?
Yeah.
admin? Okay, so, the avian flu, the update today, we are averaging about 3 birds a day dying. And so we're at 26 geese, 1 duck, and 10 showing symptoms right now. When they start showing symptoms, this is very fast, 24 to 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So it stayed pretty steady. So in about the last 10 days, we've had 27 birds die, at least that we picked up around the ponds. There has not been, and we don't know if the school or someone else is picking them up on the field, but it appears they're like going to the ponds to die. You know, that we're not finding them on fields for some reason. Or other wild animals are getting them before we are in the morning, which could be the case, is another problem. Yeah, I do want to reassure the public because I guess there was quite a social media outcry. Crystal White has been trained on the correct protocol and personal protective equipment. We have been in touch with the Department of Health. They're very much aware of our plan. We are recording them, we're reporting them, we're disposing of them appropriately. I have, again, on public property. Now, if people are finding them on their private property, they should follow the same rules. And there were lots of, there's so much information right now out there. But you should follow the same protocol. Do not touch them barehanded. You know, double up protective equipment, even respiratory cover if you have one, and dispose of them, you know, immediately so other wild animals don't find them and eat them and create further problems. We are going to look at a mechanism because this isn't going to go away very quickly. It's got to follow its course. that Director Cosgrove and I are talking about maybe training another person from Public Works to do it during the week. And then have Crystal on the weekends, because it is quite emotionally draining to pick up 3 large, 15, 20-pound birds.
Yeah.
It's hard. So we're gonna look at that. Because this is gonna continue on for a little bit, but I've heard loud and clear, we need to up our communications and our signage and education for the public. So we'll be working on that. It is kind of interesting, both Boulder County and Longmont said, you guys are doing more than we are about it. So that was good. But it's also much more visible here when we walk so much with animals. So we hear you and we'll continue to fine tune our plans there. Director Cosgrove put the snow and ice response procedures and maps in your packet. So I think what probably was the most surprising to everyone is that we don't even plow residential streets unless they go over 6 inches. And then they're going to be third in after, the primary and critical routes are done. We do only have so much equipment. And so it's not in depending if tonight is 10 inches of snow, like they're saying, we may not be able to get ours done in 24 hours because we only have so many plows and so many shovelers. But I understand what you're saying. It doesn't sound good when the town isn't following its own. So I don't know if there's specific questions about that you would like Dave to address. Anybody have specific questions about snow ice response? No? Okay.
I do.
Okay.
So, so taking, for example, the bridge that Trustee Diamond was hacking away at.
No.
So that was a situation, I think, where the snow melted and then it froze.
Yes,
Right.
that happened. Yeah.
It happened. So, if somebody sees that, what should we do? Should we call town hall? Should we call Glenn?
Dave, how would you like them to handle that when they see we've maybe cleared it the first time through and then it has a repeat? And there's several curb lines that do that too.
No.
How would you like the public to handle that?
Are you talking about packed ice?
Yeah.
When ice compacts? Well, there are different situations when snow gets compacted. So when that last snow, when it was a heavy, wet snow, and if we're able to, particularly on side streets, if it gets compacted by vehicles, so if we get, 4 to 6 inches of compacted snow, and it compacts and it adheres to the asphalt. One thing that's different from our community than other communities is we don't have a wet treatment. So we don't have brine or a de-icer. In other communities, typically what you would do is around this time or when freezing temperatures are getting to freezing or below freezing, you would go out and you would apply this wet treatment to keep snow from adhering to asphalt so that we can continue to scrape it from the asphalt as best we can, depending on the severity of the event. We only have dry treatments. We use an ice slicer, which is basically just a straight salt. And then we can use sand once snow starts to get, onto the asphalt where we can't scrape pavement dry or clean. When ice compacts to the asphalt, our plows can't scrape it up until temperatures get above freezing, and typically into the area of, around 35 to 40 degrees. Once it gets above 40, it gets a lot easier. Then we go out and we can do what's called slushing. When areas are shaded, that particularly makes it difficult for us when we get heavier snows, and it's just going to take time. And warmer temperatures. But certainly what we want people to do, which I think is indicated in the plan, is we do want them to call us. We do have other equipment that we can bring out depending on the temperature where we can try to scrape things, particularly if it's a public safety issue. So yes, you can call town hall, let us know. We do clear storm drains as well. You know, the biggest thing is we've got to try to keep storm drains clear. And what's helpful is if people also can clear the approaches to their driveways or their drive pans to help keep that water moving, and also regularly move vehicles and try to keep vehicles away from the curb just a little bit so that water can keep flowing.
That's helpful. Thank you. Trustee Dottie.
I have a question about storm drains actually, and I'm not sure that it's actually a storm drain at Third and High. It could just be a culvert is what it looks like, because we haven't done the drainage yet on Third Avenue. But I'm just wondering if it's possible to remove the leaves there. It is so built up, there's hardly any water running through there because it's so built up and it just overflows everywhere.
You do see water come up over High Street? That's
No,
what I
not-
have seen.
I
have.
haven't, you've seen it come up
Yeah.
over. I just
Yeah.
know it's having a really, it goes in at the one end on the north side there, but on the south side, right in front of the tattoo parlor there, the engineering, it has been so full for so long
Yeah.
that the other day
Yeah.
I saw the snow melt, for example, the water was like just
Mhm.
barely trickling through.
The whole thing was an ice rink.
Yeah.
3/4, 5
Yeah.
eighths. Well, we can see, I don't know what the cost would be, but we can see what
Well,
someone would charge.
Maybe just to unclog the
I
drain.
think just to remove the
Yeah,
leaves.
jet. Oh, okay, it's full though full of dirt, 3/4.
Oh,
7/8 of that
there's a lot of
entire
silt.
pipe
There's a lot of
Yeah.
silt.
is solid all the way through.
Yeah.
Could be.
At the edges a little bit, but I don't know, I don't think jetting is gonna just get it through. You're gonna have to
Well,
have
maybe,
someone
maybe after the storm,
come out.
somebody could take a look at it.
That's what I was
This
thinking.
is, and of course, that's a larger issue that we talked about with storm drainage on Second and Third.
Yep.
Yeah.
None of it is engineered adequately to handle what it should. And this kind of goes back to, and Director Cosgrove has wondered, does the board have an interest in adopting a more detailed snow ordinance? Because when we can't scrape, when cars are on the street and we can't plow them, and cars are parked on the street and we can't street sweep, all that goes into those drains. And it's a problem that it never gets done because certain people are always in the street and won't move it for street sweeping or snow removal.
Well, we should, maybe we should
And,
take.
and so in the Midwest, those of you from the Midwest, it's not uncommon to say during a snow event, you're gonna park on the outside of the street or the even side of the street so we can come in and do it. And then message them a couple days later, then move to the other side so we can come in and do that. Same with street sweeping. I think that's where all this buildup comes, or from really big gully washers where we don't have adequate curb and gutter. Where we have natural areas that's just washed.
Yeah, and I am concerned to your point that when it melts and then it refreezes and then it just becomes a sheet of ice.
Yeah, and Trustee Delman can't be everywhere. all at
No.
once.
No,
Or really,
Mine was fell, which is why I went up to the bridge and started doing that.
Yeah, this was
the
ice
bridge
on the
approaches are
bridge.
pretty steep then.
Especially the north side, the south side melts off quicker.
Mhm.
We oftentimes do get those calls. And so, yes, if you do see hazardous conditions like that, please do call and we'll do our best to deploy the right equipment and try to take care of those situations. And, every event is different and different periods of the year pose different problems for us to attack. And we have for instance, we have 2 guys in tonight. We use the best information we have available based on each storm. This one doesn't appear to be coming down at the rate that we thought. I actually just spoke to my 2 guys and they said right now they're somewhere between 1 and 2.5 inches. We thought we would have 4 to 6 inches at this point in the evening. So I did just tell them to go because they're going to have to be back in at 5 a.m. If the thing does between now and what it says it's going to do, to be back to try to clear it with the rest of the crew. So it's always changing the conditions.
Now they're saying only 3 more.
And they already
Kind of-
canceled school tomorrow.
Yeah. And the state government.
Yes.
We'll be here.
Here we are. Yeah, we'll all be here too, because we'll be bored. Okay.
So, just to finish my report,
Yeah.
there were several new really exciting new personnel updates, if you didn't see those. And then the Winter Wonderland concerts are scheduled to start, but we are now questioning if we get another storm on Friday night. Can we have that area cleaned up by Saturday, and should we be having the concert in however much snow we get? Plus, we do want to let you know that the ice rink got damaged this weekend. And so it's going to take some significant repairs before we can. I know.
Vandalism?
No, it slices into the liner with skates.
Oh.
And it's such that we can't clear it and add new water to it because it's just. So anyway, so we'll have to decide, because part of the Winter Wonderland is free skating while people skate and listen to music. So we'll have to decide on that. So that is subject to change. But other than that, I think that's all I have for now, unless.
I have some questions. So I didn't want to pull this from the consent agenda, but I do wanted to ask, the tree trimming in the right of way by Bear, what was the difference between that and the tree removal mitigation by Holler Tree?
Good question. So 2 different contracts, and Director Cosgrove, can you address those, please? The difference in the contract for Bear and for Holler.
Yes, the contract for Holler Tree Company was the tree removal and fire mitigation that we did on the Confluence buyout properties. And the other work for Bayer was just the town work in the parks and on the right of ways for streets. So they did some work on the post office, around town hall, and then in Laverne Johnson Park and Bohm Park, and just our other regular yearly budgeted park and street tree trimming and removal.
So what was the tree trimming that was taking place along 36 and the power lines? I mean, they put out big piles. That was, you know, where the trail along the river and in the highway.
The one
That was
That
was Bayer, yeah.
was regular tree maintenance.
There was one big tree that was a big concern for falling on both ours and Longmont's line, that main feeder line in.
Okay.
So we did, and that's probably what that was. I don't remember seeing the piles, but.
Those were big, but then they were gone the next day. Okay, so I was kind of curious. I thought that tonight's meeting was really interesting with Chief Zick and stuff, because I wondered about that being fire mitigation and was thrilled to see it. So
utility mitigation.
but then I didn't know if it was also utility or not. So anyway, okay, just that's good to know. I was curious about that. I actually have some more. I was curious, does the sheriff's department lease the depot? Do we have a written lease with them?
We have a written lease with an agreement with them that probably should be updated now that they've moved facilities. But yes, they don't pay for the use of that. It's part of their agreement of using Lions as a hub, so that we would have more coverage even when they're not here. Sure. But it's certainly, I'm trying to remember, I think we last looked at that probably, I don't know, 17 or 18. But probably.
I was just thinking with the new building.
Nope, it's good. Good point.
Good thinking. Because I probably will raise the question again at that point about storage of documents and stuff as a possibility.
Oh, over there? Where?
Well, I don't know, but I was going to ask about it further. But so that's why I was kind of wondering about what that lease agreement was.
Yeah. Oh, and I did meet with Leaf as follow-up to our executive session. So I guess we might need another executive session, or I'll talk with the mayor and the attorney how they want to address it.
Okay. And then I was wondering also, but it wasn't appropriate because it wasn't on the agenda at the time, but I would love it. Can we get a debrief from Chief Zick and the sheriff's department about the fire on Main Street. I would really love to get the insight, and the public, I'm sure, would love to get that in, you know, some information and you know, any areas that we can improve. So I was wondering if we could have something like that as a, maybe just a workshop. I don't know, but it would just be great to hear some kind of a debrief. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Any other questions for Administrator Simonson? Thank you as always.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Legal update, Attorney Dittman.
Thank you so much. I do have a few quick updates I want to give you and some of the pending matters that we're working on. I first wanted to talk about the Benita Yoder property. As you may recall, excuse me, there was a auction scheduled for, I think it was last week at this point in time, for that property, and I did reach out to the attorney that was previously assigned to that case for Chase Bank, and she has told me that it has been continued, the auction, until March 22nd of this year, and that Chase has obtained new counsel. So I haven't had a chance to reach out to the new counsel. So I just got this late last week, but I will be doing that probably this week to get a better understanding of what's going on, one, and then two, making sure they understand the, you know, all the different issues that are going on at that property. So any questions on that one?
Yeah.
Is it, wait,
Would,
go ahead.
would that give federal funding that town is looking at, that give them enough time to possibly get that to purchase that?
If I recall reading their email, they said that could take up to a year.
Yeah.
So is it still in foreclosure though?
Yes. It's just that they discontinue the date of the sale,
Okay.
but it's still in the foreclosure process. Now that means that, you know, Benita Yoder could come up and basically pay off the mortgage by March 22nd somehow. But that, you know, as of right now, it will be up for auction again on the 22nd of March.
All right.
Is there something?
What else do you have there?
Yeah, I was going to a brief, you know, Honeywell update and just tell you where we're at this case. You know, we're in the process of depositions. Depositions will be continuing through the middle of February. There was a decision recently on Falon's and Tetra Tech status as a third-party beneficiary to the town of Lyons, which basically means whether or not Lyons can sue them directly or whether we can only basically sue them through Honeywell is the distinction there. And the arbitration panel held that they didn't believe that Lyons could sue them directly. However, the points moved because Honeywell has already sued them and claiming that anything that Honeywell is liable for, then they're also liable for. So it's in a lot of ways it's a distinction without a difference, but it was a decision of some consequences that was recently made by the arbitration panel.
Any questions about Honeywell?
And then Apple Valley.
And you had an update on Apple Valley?
Yes, I had a quick update on Apple Valley, and that was that the parties, the Sparkses, through their attorney and town staff, decided that it'd be beneficial for both sides for a variety of reasons to postpone that sale and the closing of the sale at least until the middle of this year, till June, it looks like. And so we don't foresee any negative consequences on the town side from that. My understanding from Director Eystone is that so long as that money comes in this year, it really has no negative impact on the town's water and sanitation fund. And it also gives us some time to sort out some of the continuing issues with the easements that were required to be retained when we get rid of this property. So I had say 98% there on that piece of this, but this helps us get kind of all the ducks in a row. So any questions on that one?
No, I mean, I'm fine with delaying the closing.
Installments.
What's that?
Versus installment.
Versus, yeah, versus.
Right, it was
installment.
asked at one point in time whether we'd be willing to take installments, and really that gets extremely complex. And so it was better, given the circumstances, to delay the closing.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
Nobody's lights are gonna get turned off because we don't close them.
Yep.
Anything else, Attorney Tippman?
And that's it for me, unless you have any questions for me on other matters.
Anybody? No? Okay, thank you very much. All right, summary of action items.
Okay, I've got, the open house is scheduled for next Monday from 4 to 7 at the substation for the sheriff's department. 2, I've got move forward with the Minimum Green Energy Program as discussed in the workshop. 3, the LAHC is to bring forth a request for the use of the visitor center. Item 4, I've got work with fire to schedule mitigation, cleanup, and prescribe burn and get cost of mitigation crew for the Board of Trustees for the Martin parcel. Item 5, I have the Ecology Board to look at beaver dams, including costs and benefits. Item 6, I have keep Highway 36 option that was selected and make revisions later if needed. Item 7, Trustee Elson is to check with the Ecology Board if they would like to weigh in on the avian flu. Item 8 is a potential half-day workshop in late February to reevaluate the board's goals. 9, the board would like to see a timeline of construction projects in town with a map. Item 10 is the potential of the town and fire to work together to offer pro bono inspections to Main Street businesses affected by the fire. Item 11 is an agenda item on how to spend the Broncos Stadium proceeds. Item 12 is to prioritize snow removal from crosswalks and town sidewalks. Item 13 is to review the sheriff's department contract and lease. And the last thing I have is that the board would like to debrief with Chief Sick on the Main Street fire, and that could be a potential workshop.
More,
Okay.
pull out the Boulder County Sheriff's Office contract.
Yep,
and
I stated that.
review- Oh, you did?
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm looking through mine while you're saying yours and they're not necessarily the same order. And then, did you have to start looking at the annexation and zoning?
No, I
For
wasn't
Martin
sure about
Parson.
that. Did we want the PCDC to start that process?
No, I'm gonna talk with planning stuff first, see what that entails and
Yeah,
bring back.
so we know what.
Yeah, I have a checklist from CML that you follow, but the first public step of that is a PCDC, but it doesn't
And
go
then-
directly to PCDC. There's some notification that's to be done first.
Okay, and then do's and don'ts of avian.
Attorney Dittman, do you have anything to add?
I think that's a pretty comprehensive list.
Yeah, that's a long list.
It's a big list.
Or short night.
Yeah. A short night, unquote. We thought it was gonna be a lot shorter, I think. But-
Gosh, thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
And I'll be out of town, God willing, the 20th through the 30th. We can get out of here, and you will be in Mayor Pro Tem's very capable hands. Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, and nothing can go wrong, please. No Congressman Nabus will be in town.
Oh, that's, no, I didn't know that was gonna be a public thing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it might be.
I didn't know either.
Yeah. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
All right,
I second.
okay. All in favor? Thank you for hanging in there, Trustee Williams. Have a wonderful time in Hawaii.
Yeah,
Just-
great time.
She's on her way. She was supposed to fly out tomorrow, but decided to fly out to Texas today to get the first.
Probably
Yeah,
a smart
so-
decision.
Our
Yeah.
planning, the Laura. Thursday is.
Oh,
Lord.
Thursday is.
Waiting for some materials to get the packet out.
I
They
got-
said they'll have them to me by